in your information, but I didn't hear you say it. This went before the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, I apologize. Yes, it did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission on November 5th. It was a 3-1 vote in favor of approving the application, and the developers are here tonight. They actually have a presentation as well for you as well as members of the public.
Okay. Questions for staff?
Ron, did staff or the Planning and Zoning Commission offer or propose any conditions or stipulations?
No, actually. We did not give any sort of conditions or any stipulations. The council can add them at any time if there are any.
Okay, thank you.
In the staff report on page 5, it says, while no traffic report was submitted to this project, it appears that minimal impact to Highway 61 is expected. So 300-plus cars is, how do you reference that? You know,
Mike, would you
who
move
made that?
a little closer to that microphone?
Who made that statement that minimal impact to Highway 61? Where did that come from?
So it's my staff report. I submitted it myself. I created it. And that was based off of the information that the developer was able to give us based on current traffic as we see it on 61. There is only one light on that section of the roadway. However, but the developer would have to work with GDOT in order to make the necessary changes. And there will be changes to that light that would more than likely be necessary for this project.
Yeah, I've sat out there and watched the turn lane back up and completely fill up with existing traffic. So if you have to make a change to the intersection, that doesn't sound like minimal impact to me.
With most developments of this scale and of this size, you're going to have, of course, a small increase in traffic. There's going to have to be some infrastructure changes when it comes to traffic infrastructure in the general vicinity. That can mean increasing the queuing line, how long the queuing line is at one of those lights. So what you may have experienced or what you may have seen, I'm sure GDOT would also have to see that, and they would have to go through GDOT in order to.
In several places, they touted that the development would be within walking distance of business and restaurants, but there's no pedestrian crossing across 61.
Mhm.
So that would be necessary in order to take advantage of this closeness that they're touting.
Yeah, there would be in that case if there's a pedestrian crossing there. I would only imagine that it would make it a lot safer, right, to cross 61. But that will also have to go through GDOT as well. They don't look at just vehicular, but also pedestrian traffic.
Council, let me interject something. Would it be, what I hear you saying are all legitimate points, and I've heard the same thing from the public. Would it be amenable to you if that were part of the stipulations on this development that a GDOT traffic plan for that intersection?
At least an impact study by GDOT be conducted to.
We would require that actually in the community development department anyway, as a part of them going through their permitting procedures. After the rezoning would be finalized and the annexation would be finalized, that's something that we would require regardless.
And it would include a pedestrian crossing as well as turn in, turn out.
We can include that. I can.
Okay.
So would it in and out, turn in and out, that wouldn't be down by Chick-fil-A and the service station where all that traffic is? This would be up at the traffic light?
At the traffic light, right. So their closest entrance to get from Commerce Drive to Highway 61 would be that traffic light. And that's where it is expected. I think anyone who can review these plans and can see the map can see that that's the closest entrance. That's where 90% of people are going to enter and exit out of to get to Highway 61 and to get to I-20. It would make no sense to go all the way down to the CVS to come back again.
They also touted the stormwater retention pond as a benefit to the neighborhood. Do we care that they have to cross a creek to get water into that retention pond?
As a part of their amenity package, you're saying?
No, no, it's part of the structure. The stormwater runoff management facility, they call it, it's a retention pond. But in order to get water from their parking areas and stuff, they have to cross a creek. Do we care if might be an issue, or?
As
or
long as
that's just an engineering issue that they have to deal with?
it would be an engineering issue, but as long as the state's Environmental Protection Division accepts that plan from the developer, then they're going to be able to move forward with it.
Bobby, you would have to approve that detention facility for that water for any development, not just this one.
Yes, sir, all the stormwater requirements will have to be met. And let me remind the council that they have their engineer here. If there's specific questions about that, he'd be willing to answer them. And to go back to the traffic study, normally, like with Avamore, with the 226 acres, a massive development with massive units, they took it upon themselves to go ahead and do a traffic analysis on the front end. We kind of talked about that on this one, but since there's already a Georgia DOT light there, there's going to have to be an analysis performed by an independent engineering firm to determine what upgrades or changes that need to be made to that intersection, that up to and including pedestrian crossing. So whatever GDOT requires, they're going to have to do.
Thank you, sir.
That's usually what we do.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you, Ron.
Sure.
I've got a question of David Macklin.
Yes, sir.
David, this thing's got three motions to it. The first one's annexation. Do all of them have to go together, or are they independent? Can it be annexed and not rezoned? I mean, that piece of property looks like it should have been in the city's, it was at one time, it looks like.
Generally speaking, the first motion that's heard would be the rezoning of the property conditioned upon the annexation of it, so that if you do not rezone the property, that the developer then has the option of deciding that he doesn't want to have it annexed at that point.
Okay, because they didn't have it in that order. They got the annexation first.
Yeah.
I did. Mhm.
Yeah, generally speaking, the rezoning, I mean, this question comes up a lot, and my answer is that you have the rezoning first, conditioned upon the annexation, so that if the rezoning gets turned down, again, the developer can decide then whether he wants to be in the city or not, knowing that you're not going to rezone his property the way
Okay.
the developers asked.
So David, as a follow-up to that question, then when or if we get to the portion where a motion is made, then you will make sure we make the correct motion. It's not the way it's written.
Yeah, I will.
So,
And it's a comprehensive plan change. There's three motions in here.
I'll look at all of them and be ready to go when you are.
thank you, Ron. I know the developer is here at this time, so if you would come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeff Matthews, 215 West Bankhead Highway, Billerica, Georgia, 30180. It's my business address. I live at 250 Garst Road off at Sand Hill. It's a Carrollton address, but don't hold that against me. And I'm here tonight. I am the property owner. Can y'all hear me okay? Am I too close to the mic or what?
Just right.
All right, I'm the property owner, and I have here with me this evening Mr. Kent Levinson and Mr. Mark Shaw. They are with Parkside Equities. They would actually be doing the building and carrying the project on through. We also have Mr. Ken Woods here. He's with Engineers and Planners Collaborative. And so if I'm just the 30,000-foot view guy, I want to give you a little bit of history and a little bit of background on the piece of property. Mr. Levinson is the nuts and they've done the deal. He's the nuts and bolts of Parkside Equities. And then Mr. Woods can answer any question about runoff coefficients and friction loss in a water pipe over a mile run, those things that are beyond my pay grade. But I know, and I've been in other situations like this, and I know that change is something that the human condition does not readily accept. So I looked up today and I find that in 1950, Villa Rica had 1,701 people according to the census. I think in 2020, we will pass 16,000. If you do that math, that's about a flat 3% growth rate over a long time. But Villa Rica has certainly changed since we were a little gold mining town. They moved town from up on 61 down to here, and then the miners went away, and then the world's changed several times. And I know that the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said that change is the only constant in life, even though we don't like it as human beings. But the brief background on this piece of property, in 1985, it was part of the Bagwell estate. Shorty Bagwell lived over here across from Mr. Brown's house on 78, where Sonic Drive-In is now. It was sold to some folks, and I bought it and sold the corner to Garner Food Systems, who did the Hardee's restaurant in 1985. And later, so it's been 34 years. It hadn't been an overnight success. Then we later did the Pizza Hut, which will go away in this deal. It will be demolished. It's time. That business has changed. So over the years, and I've had the front door to the piece of property on the back. There was 30 acres. It was owned by the Leathers estate. And I've gotten several calls, and I usually get a call. I'd get a call from a broker, and he'd say, what do you want for that piece of property between the Pizza Hut and the motel? And I would say, what are you going to do with it? And he says, well, why do you care? If you make me a price and I buy it, I'll own it, and I can do what I want to with it. And I said, well, there's 3 reasons I care. Number one, because if I know what you're going to do with it, and it's a real good use, I might could charge you more money for it. Number two, I own other property in the area and am concerned about the symbiosis of that entire area out there. And number three, I'm concerned about Villa Rica because I grew up here, I live here, and I make a living here and have for a long time. But I got a click on the other end of the line. The guy hangs up. About a year later, the Pilot truck stop shows up in Temple, Georgia, same broker. Same story, 2 more times. In the meantime, and the next time, it was Flying J. I get a click on the end of the phone because I always ask, what are you going to do with the property? Then now we're going to get, you probably hadn't seen it yet, but we're going to get a Love's truck stop. That's the third one. In the meantime, there was a rumor about a Bass Pro Shop that was coming to town. 30 acres back there, that's great. I said, oh, the front door's open, brother. We can make a deal because that is a good use. That is a retail use. That is a use that will help everybody. I find out later Bass Pro was levering Villa Rica, levering Georgia against Alabama for the store that is now in Leeds, just this side of Birmingham. Great store. So they got a better deal from the Alabama Economic Council. I don't think they ever really intended to go there on 30 acres. The school bought half of that piece of property, and then I bought the other half from some folks in South Carolina that the Leathers had sold it to because I feel like it's time to do something positive out there. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation or disinformation, as there always is. Like Benjamin Franklin said, bad news will be all the way across town before good news can get his shoes tied. But there is a lot of things that could go on or could have gone on in that quadrant all these years, and I've been holding on out there, and sometimes it hadn't been easy. But John F. Kennedy, and I want you to think about this as I give you these other points. John F. Kennedy said, a rising tide lifts all the boats. And indeed it does. And we've all seen what a receding tide can do too, because it strands them all. But think about that rising tide, because what I've been waiting on is a developer with a quality ethic, I guess you'd say, that wants to do a good job. They're going to make money. Yes, I certainly hope so, because I'm counting on them paying me. But they have a long history. If you look at the packets that they have given you, there's some of them out here in the front. They've done things from the St. Regis Hotel to Brand Bank, and they've done luxury apartments all over the Southeast. They've done them in Florida, doing some at the Villages now, Panama City now. They've done them in Savannah, just different places that they typically, their typical build is a build and hold for about 10 years. Then the depreciation starts running off, and they sell them. They always sell them for a profit, by the way. And the reason I chose them is because I saw a development that they had done in Dallas, Georgia, up on Charles Hardy Parkway. It used to be called Amley at Lost Mountain. Now it's Evergreen at Lost Mountain. Those units were built in the late 90s. They sold them. It's in your packet, toward the back of the packet. They sold them in 2002. If you go up there and look today, they still look pretty good. They are a really quality developer. What they are proposing out there are market rate, approximately a $30 million investment in Villa Rica, Georgia. They will put up a fence. It will be gated. They will have, as Mr. Johnson said, they will have green space. They'll have a clubhouse, pool, tennis courts, bocce ball, several things. The other thing that they will have that you don't see in a lot of areas of town, especially in some of the subdivisions that went through that receding tide where houses were bought by investors and subsequently rented, you don't see professional management. You don't see the grass cut every week. You don't see things like that. That will occur here. That will occur. There will be a credit check for any potential customer. There will be a background check. There will be full-time management staff on site. This is not something they're not wanting to come out here and waste $30 million. So they're going to certainly take care of their investment. But from a management standpoint, there'll be a lender on site. There'll be a lender that comes through every few months that checks to see that they're keeping that property up, because this will be financed through somebody like the Teachers Insurance Annuity Fund or an insurance company, and they will come check their property, where a bank, once they sell that home in that neighborhood, typically don't come back unless they have to foreclose. And we've seen some of that. The good thing about this development is they're going to target, obviously, slightly above what we currently have as an average income in Villa Rica, Georgia. They'll be targeting teachers. They'll be targeting medical professionals. They'll be targeting, if we get a new industrial park, which we do need, they'll be targeting those middle and upper level managers who need a place to live where they can be assured of a good quality environment while maybe they hopefully decide to buy a house in the neighborhood. And the housing market, there may be some vacancies in some of these units, but it's generally pretty tight in Villa Rica, Georgia, on both the rental and the sales side. Now, some of the concerns that have been raised in the community, and I'd like to address them, because I think sunshine is a great disinfectant, and transparency works real good. Concerns about traffic. I agree with what Ms. Butler said. Traffic is a problem in town, but there would be only one exit out of this community into 61, which would be at the red light. It would not be exiting onto Clearview and going out down at day-night or at Chick-fil-A and snarling up that traffic further. But nobody likes traffic. Nobody. We all want to go to Longhorn or Red Lobster at 6 o'clock on a Friday and not have to wait. Go straight in. But if you're a business owner, if you're a mechanic, or if you're a car dealer, or if you're Walmart or you're Home Depot, you got to have traffic. Home Depot didn't come out here because they got excess lumber in Atlanta they needed to move somewhere. They came out here because Villa Rica is a positive, growing community that they see a need for their services in, which is a good thing. And if you have the best recipe, if you can make the best cookie in the world, if you go put your shop in Rooteville, Georgia, you're not going to survive. You have got to have retail and residential backup traffic. That's the other good thing about this community, is those residents will have discretionary income, and better than that, they'll have some time. because they won't be cutting the yard and cleaning the gutters and spraying the weeds on Saturday morning. The next concern is about the schools, and I agree with that because I went to Villa Rica High School. My kids graduated from Villa Rica High School, and I liked it then. I was in the principal's office the other day, first time I'd been in a long time. It was a lot more fun this time than it was then. But what the school had concerns, they sent a letter, and they were concerned about, well, what are we going to get? What's this going to be? Well, it's going to be 71 single bedrooms. Doesn't generate a lot of kids. It generates a lot of single people, single mothers, a nurse, a new teacher. 112 two bedrooms. Same situation. It'll generate mom and a kid, or a couple and a kid. Going to be 12 three bedrooms. This is not a heavy school board load generator. We met with Principal Glenn Harding and discussed this, and then we met with Mr. Harding and Terry Jones, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Administrative and Support Services. We discussed their concerns, went over what their thoughts and their input was, and addressed those, and have agreed to address those. And we've gotten a second letter which says that they kind of agree. We're all on the same sheet of music, and they know we're going to do a good program to get that done. I think y'all may have a copy of that letter or an email in your packet. But it concerns me, and from a school board standpoint, kids are customers. If you don't turn out a good product, you're not going to survive. Fayette County has been closing schools down there because they had a drop in enrollment. We saw that in the Carrollton paper last week, where West Georgia College is non-renewing folks because they've had a drop in enrollment. Villa Rica High School, back during the last recession when the tide went out, they went from 92 teachers to 72 teachers, according to Mr. Harding. They're now coming back up, which is good. There's a study that has been done, and I think y'all have a copy of it. If you don't, I can send you a copy. It's about 38 pages. It was done by the Urban Land Institute, the Sierra Club, and the American Institute of Architects, which says, and the Sierra Club would like nothing better than for all of us to go away. They would like for humans to leave the planet. But they do support this type growth, because if you had this type growth out in the county somewhere, you would eat up over 200 acres to put this type quality growth on a single-family subdivision scenario. But the ULI study showed that in 100-unit apartments, you get 21 students, K through 12. In a 100-unit single-family subdivision, you get 64. Now, I want to look into that a little bit, because some of these subdivisions that are doing 4 bedrooms, I think you're going to get more than 64. But that's, we can make a place for them. We've changed before. We changed a lot. We will continue to change as long as it's positive. But to accommodate that type growth, I think the school is ready. According to Mr. Harding, he's got several, got a good bit of freeboard in terms of room for more students. And I know the age wave and old folks like me that are selling out and, don't have any kids in the school, that's factored in. The next thing I want to address is some concerns I've heard about infrastructure and taxes. I've heard that people in apartments don't pay taxes. Well, they may not, but the developer's going to pay them and then charge them in the rent. It's just basic economics that evidently some people have a hard time getting their arms around. The other thing about infrastructure is Villa Rica does have a host of infrastructure problems, and it's related to the fact that we have a lot of old infrastructure that's been in the ground 100 years, and part of it is nobody knows where it is. Since Horace Luther died, he knew where everything was. He knew where every cutoff valve and every pipe was, and how Miss Smith's backflow preventer never worked. But he's gone. It's changed. So we've got to fix those problems. When I was in Villa Rica High School 50 years ago, 50 years, I had classmates who lived in Fullerville who did not have inside plumbing. John Wayne can tell you that. And it's changed now, and they weren't camping, by the way, that was out from the house. But this track is one of the few tracks in Villa Rica that does have direct access to sewer. It's not going to have to be rehabilitated to accommodate it. It is going to flow straight to the west plant, which is running at about a 50% capacity. That's the other thing we've got coming, and I know y'all on the council are aware of this every day, that we've got a new sewer plant that is going to require a lot of funding to pull it up. It's got to be lifted up pretty significantly. And the good part about this opportunity is that the fees, the tap fees, the permit fees, and more importantly, the continuing stream of revenue from those customers, that money is not just going to go in a file drawer and be left out at City Hall. It's going to be put in place, whether it's in downtown. It may fix sewer capacity in Fullerville. But those numbers, those fees, those revenue streams, if we do not get revenue streams like that from quality growth, then the only other option is for the current folks, the current users, to pay more. And we've already had some increases, and rightfully so, because we've been behind for a good while. But I pay water and sewer bills, and, I get it. I know that it's got to be done, because I'm certainly a flush and forget it kind of guy. But the other thing about taxes, if this was an industrial customer coming to the city of Villa Rica, like Bass Pro went to Alabama, if this was an industrial customer coming to spend $30 million, they would be getting free land. Somebody would buy it, the Development Authority or Carroll Tomorrow, somebody would have to buy it and give it to them. They would ask you to grade the road. They would ask you to grade their pad. They would ask for a tax abatement on property taxes for at least 10 years. And then they leave like Lowe's did. We've seen that movie. We've seen that change. And then they would ask the city probably to do a bond inducement to sweeten it up a little bit to where they could borrow money to build their building at a cheaper rate. Might even ask for Freeport, where they don't pay taxes on their inventory. These folks aren't asking for that. They'll be paying full boat. And on taxes, let me give you one more little number, because we talk about apartments and apartments going down, and we get it, I understand. But Hickory Falls Apartments, which Ms. Walker alluded to earlier, it was built in 2003, been 15, 16 years ago now. It sold 9/30/2019. It sold for $31,150,000. Those folks didn't buy it to let it go down. They didn't buy it to let it go to waste. They didn't buy it to not cut the grass, not clean the gutters. In 2019, that's, by the way, they had 220 units. That's $142,000 a door. $142,000 a door. We still got a lot of $80,000 houses in Villa Rica. These folks are going to spend north of $165,000 a door. And in 2019, Hickory Falls Apartments paid $197,000 in taxes, about 60% of which went to the school system. The rest of it came up here. The city got the water, they got the sewer. They did nothing inside the gate. The county did nothing inside the gate. There's also been a question about crime. This ULI study that I alluded to, the Sierra Club study, also says that if you take the address, you will get a higher correlation of calls to an apartment complex. But if you take that same call log from the VRPD or whoever, and you apply it to a same number of unit single-family subdivision, there's no statistical difference in the number of police calls that are generated by an apartment complex. They do a good job. They vet folks, they check them out, they do background checks. I don't know any landlords in Villa Rica that runs a criminal background check on a single-family tenant. I probably need to be, but I'm usually excited to get one. But in closing, I'd just like to say that this is a win-win. These folks will spend money. They'll have time. They won't be working in the yard. they'll spend time in downtown. They can walk to Chick-fil-A, and I think that's a good idea about putting a walking trail or a walking with lights on it. You push a button and a light comes on, it slows it up. And traffic, it's always going to be a concern. I mean, people are still up at I-20. They're still confused with that little yellow flashing arrow. I see a wreck up there. If you'll go up there about 6 o'clock any morning, you'll see somebody going to get on I-20, and they're putting jelly on a biscuit. They're texting, and they're turning left, driving with their knee. Y'all see it. I see it. I know it's illegal, but they still do it. So I know it's easy to be against something, but the city staff has looked at this. Planning and zoning has looked at it and recommended it. And I just know that good quality net positive growth is something that we've had before and we need currently. So with that, if y'all have any questions, anything you need a historical question, I can answer it. Because I know where the chili dog was, and I know where the Tasty Freeze used to be. I mean, I know where the Hideaway was, and I knew where the Shamrock was. I never went because I was too young. But I know those things because I've been here a long time. But if you have a technical question or if you have a business question, then either Mr. Levinson or Mr. Wood can answer it. And I'm sure I left out something, but I'm a Villa Rica booster. I've been here a long time, and it's been good to me. And if I thought that this community was going to be a detriment, I wouldn't have done it. And let me add one more thing now before somebody takes it wrong. I am not anti-truck. I know if you live in America and you've got something, a truck brought it. But I didn't want a truck stop either time on exit 24. We had one on exit 26, still got one. They do a great job. I'm sure they pay a lot of sales tax. That's our quota. We got one. So with that, I'll sit down, and if you've got any questions of a technical nature, I'll let them answer them, or I'll answer anything. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hang on just a minute. Are there any questions for the owner of the property, or I would like to hear from the developers and just know who you are. Are there any questions for Mr. Matthews while he's here? Okay.
Thank you.
Kenneth Wood, 350 Research Court, Peachtree Corners, Georgia. I'm actually from Carrollton, so I was laughing when he said that. So don't. It's that 61 has been a road I've driven a long time, and so Kent Levinson also will get up here and speak as well. I do have a PowerPoint. If you guys can turn it to one of the next slides, like 2 over, you can actually go to the plan. Actually, it's 3 over. Keep going. One more. Yeah, to the it's and then one more. There we go. So looking at the plan, so when we looked at this, Jeff talked about the $250,000 in taxes, the $30 million, and so I get the ability being a land planner and civil engineer all over the Southeast and seeing these in communities kind of everywhere. And what's happened in the last really 5 years is that the multifamily it's evolved and changed, and so institutional money, as they talked about, has come in, and the amount that is being paid for properties, the amount the properties are going for has really gone through the roof. And so as he mentioned, this being $30 million. And so what that does, and to you guys and the way you see it, is not only just the taxes, it's that it's such an investment for an institution that they will maintain it over time. And so that's why they have cyber cafes, all the walking trail, the bocces, all the really high-end amenities, because it's really a lifestyle. And I think what you'll notice, what I see all the time in communities, is that it's really becoming a life choice. Some people just don't want to mow a yard anymore. They don't want to maintain a house, and so they rent a really high-end apartment by choice, because what that gives you the ability to, if you have a dog or if you don't have a dog, is you can lock and go. You want to go on vacation, you can lock it and go and not worry about it. And so that's a life decision that we're seeing really all over. And so I pull up the plan so you guys can see, as we were looking at the design, we really wanted to maintain, as we were looking at a lot of the open space. So in doing multifamily all over the place, one of the key places that we do it in is near interstates. It's for visibility. They work near interstates. The noise is not a factor. We wanted to drown out some of the noise by keeping the largest buffer we could. We added the walking trail, which would support an emergency vehicle coming across, that would be able to get the storm pipe under the ground. It doesn't affect the creek because we pipe the creek. We still leave it 25% submerged so that it's navigable for a minnow or fish, in higher tides. But what that does is it actually activates that side. So it's not just stormwater. Someone can walk on that side of it and activate that side. Being next to the school is actually an amenity because it's close by. And then we can definitely look at, whatever Georgia DOT goes with. It's definitely a great idea as we've looked at pedestrian connection. That's what we want. The same things you guys want is what they want as well, because as they've gone through and we've looked at the maps, everything being within a walking distance is what they're looking for. And so being able to have that in a safer route, that's just going to help the value of the property. And then as far as the traffic, as Jeff talked about, it being a 4-lane, a 4-lane is where you want to place the higher intensities. That's what they're made for. As you go anywhere toward Metro or anywhere above it, an hour outside of any direction, the 4 lanes are where you're going to see the higher intensities because that's what they are built for. But it also wants to be where you can promote the walkability. The other thing that we were talking about is trends. And I had a question at the Planning Commission, just want to kind of reiterate it, was we had a question about, why would this not create a trend where all of a sudden we have tons and tons of apartments just pop up immediately because of this one? And the reason is because you guys created a comp plan that makes sense. It makes sense to me when I read it. When I read the Gateway, it talks about these locations near the 4-lane, near the amenities, near the school, near the commercial. This is where higher intensities are supposed to be. And it points out R14 in the Gateway, and that this is where it should be, and it should promote green space, and it should promote amenities and walkability. So it's your plan that protects you. You can't someone can't walk in tomorrow and say, well, down the street on some 2-lane road, that's the next multifamily. And then you go to the comp plan and say, well, it doesn't support it, and that's your protection. And so we're not creating a trend because we're just following the plan you guys put aside. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Kent to kind of run through the product and what they plan to build.
My name is Kent Levinson. I'm one of the partners of Parkside Equities. We are a multifamily mixed-use developer, and Atlanta's been my home since I was born, in 1949 to be exact. So we want to be a good neighbor. We do not and did not come out here to try and be a negative impact for this community in any way. The properties that we build are very expensive, and we have not ever had one that became a Section 8 property. We've never had one that was foreclosed. Having said that, we understand the fears of the neighborhood that can happen. And we try and eliminate that by having good equity partners, institutional partners, and good financing. Our typical apartments, and if you look at our brochure, are usually the
Hold on.
nicest.
Let the train go by. Welcome to Billerica.
That's got character.
One more whistle. No, go ahead.
Okay. So, our thoughts on building out here was the same as our thought when we bought the property from Mr. Hardy many years ago, is that there is an industrial boom going on at I-20 and the Fulton industrial area and Thornton Road and on Riverside Parkway. And those people, if they want to have a good quality of life, I believe Billerica is the best spot for it. There's been a lot of, I'd say, mismanagement of the Douglas County area. And as a result, even your school system has a lot of Douglas County children who come out here. You've done a good job in creating a nice community, and we would like to be a part of it. As a result, our homes are not, our apartment homes are really not designed as family friendly, even though we do not discriminate against families. Our design lends itself to young professionals without a family. It does lend itself to a divorcee with a child, but most of the people who would be living in our apartments would find, if they had more than one child in a 2 or 3 bedroom, that they would be looking for a home out here. It's cheaper for them to own a home in many respects with today's financing rates. But all our homes have granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. We have a faux wood, hardwoods throughout all the areas except the bedrooms, and we carpet those. We have walk-in glass showers, decorator designed pendant lighting, and we want it to be a home. We don't want our residents turning over, and this isn't a urban walkable site, but you are very, very close to having great walkability. You can walk down the road to the Chick-fil-A, and we're hoping that Jeff puts in a coffee shop of some sort on the piece of property that he has remaining out front, and you can ask him. I've negotiated him to make sure that he puts something nice there, so he better, or he'll be on my bad list like he may be on some of the people around here's bad list. But we believe in your community. We're looking to make a big investment out here. We've got a long way to go with this project because we have no clue yet what DOT will require of us. And we've got to get all our financing package put together. And so there's still a lot of work to do. This project probably won't come out of the ground until towards the second or third quarter of next year, just as a result of that. But we would like to be a neighbor. We can answer any questions that you might have regarding our facilities. I think Jeff pretty much took everything I had to say away from me because I think he was scared what I might say. But we have, I think, one of the top engineers. Ken does apartments all over the Southeast, not just for us, but for all the major companies. And we like those type of alliances. Our architectural firm is Wakefield Beasley, who designed the Avalon, if you've been to Alpharetta, and are one of the top architectural firms in the Southeast. So, we try to put together a first-class team. We want to do a first-class job for you. And I do understand your apprehension, and there is no question there are some apartments that, when they fall on bad times, have bad people move in. And I know you've experienced it. That's the last thing in the world we want to happen. But I believe that your city council has the control to make sure that doesn't happen. And the worst thing that can happen is for you to start zoning everything multifamily. And then we're all going to suffer. And when we start to suffer in the top end of the apartment market, it creates apartments that were at one time luxury apartments end up with the worst tenants because they've got to have a tenant to pay their mortgage, or the lender takes it back. On most of our financing and all our pro formas, we put around $250 to $300 a month per unit per year in a sinking fund to take care of repairs for the future when the apartments do begin to need new things. So, if you take 200 units times 300, that's $60,000 a year we put aside. So it's it's not the same business that the apartment business used to be. We hope we do a great job at that business so far. With the good Lord's help, we have been able to do that. So we want to be, would love to answer anyone's concerns. We can try and do that. The traffic, we thought we had picked the best site because we're so unobtrusive to the neighborhood. When our residents come out, I would say 95% are going to be going to I-20, which means a quick right turn, and then they're on I-20 to either go east or west. Coming home, we do have to make a left turn, but you're looking at 2 trips a day, and if you analyze that, yes, it seems like a lot, but we're off the road very quickly. It's not like you're taking us traffic light to traffic light to traffic light. So I hope, that gives you a feeling that we are willing to work with the city and would like to be a part of the community. And then Ken can tell you if you have any of your technical questions like you might have had about the detention pond, and that are beyond, my technical expertise. But thank you, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Just a quick comment. Looking at your architectural plans, having been associated with apartments for most of my life, I like the fact that you've got green space in the middle of your apartments, and I don't know what slides, we can't see what slides up on the board right now, but I just wanted to make that comment that your parking is different so that you have living areas, people can actually go out in the middle of that and enjoy the green space rather than be completely surrounded by roads and parking lots. So.
This
We
is on the
thank
board.
Mr. Shaw for that.
Hey, Jeff. The green space is on the board.
I'm looking at the plan. I just wanted to thank him for.
Oh, yeah. But Mark always makes us put plenty of green space in there, and it's our pleasure to do that. We want people to not want to move and not have a good alternative to move. So, thank you,
sir.
and I'll answer any other questions.
Any
you might have.
questions, Council?
I'm particularly wondering how you're going to,
Somebody might need to answer this.
I'm sorry.
well, whoever's going to tell me about the drainage, he alluded to that earlier.
Oh, right here.
How he's getting the water from the parking lot down to that collection pond.
Sure. So we've done this quite a few times in a lot of different places. So from the elevation of the parking lot, we have sidewalks that wrap all through the green space, and this plan doesn't even show all the sidewalks that our landscape architects will create so that you can walk all the way through the community. And so the trail is designed so that you can walk across. And so that trail would basically have a storm pipe put in it, and it would be filled up at the level of the parking lot, so it would look like a trail going through the woods. And so at that elevation, what that does, being elevated, is it allows us to put a storm pipe also through it to take all the impervious water from this side and pipe it over to that detention pond. And one of the reasons we did that was we thought at this area, because that's definitely the lowest spot of the site, is we could actually make a pond that is less slope and in a larger area rather than trying to squeeze the parking lot and put it in a tighter area with walls. We thought this would be much more aesthetically better to have it at a lower slope where we can landscape it and make it feel more of the fabric of the community instead of trying to make it a walled pond because we lost space. So that's how we approach it and do it.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, this is a public comment, so we will open up the public comments portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this, please do so at this time. State your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
My name is Woody Holland. I live at 643 Old Hanyard Road, Villa Rica. I own a house that's top corner left. It is a piece of rental property. I've had it for probably 15, 18 years. When I first got a registered letter from the city, I kind of wondered what the heck's going on. So I went down, and Mr. Johnson was kind enough to sit down with me and show me the plans and explain what the deal was. And we didn't get into much detail like Jeff did, but still, I got the feeling what was going on. I guess what makes sense to me is we've got 195 new customers, and this council's been raising rates around here, so the more people we can have to spread that over is better, price for water and for sewer. I don't know about garbage pickup, but certainly it's a good place to have a lot of new people there. Also, the fact that it is market rate, and there's no government subsidy or anything, so they're having to pay. And in the other meeting that I came to, there was one of the guys said that it's going to be $1.30 per square foot rent. Correct me if that's wrong, but I think that's what I heard. So it means 1,000 square foot apartment is going to bring in $1,300 a month. You know, I wouldn't pay that. You know, I'm sorry, I just wouldn't. Okay, but there are people that will. So the fact that I wouldn't do it shouldn't bother me. It's the fact that they won't that they don't want to get out and cut grass like I do. So they're getting their lifestyle. They probably once they move there, they have no reason to leave unless there's a change of jobs or something like that. So I'm completely in favor of this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comments portion of the meeting, and it will revert back to the council.
Do you need a motion to open up discussion?
I said, are we gonna do the rezoning or the annex first?
Yeah, I would say that on the question of the order of the motions, when you get around to actually making motions, that the reverse order would be the best, 3, 2, and 1.
So 3, 2, 1 is your recommendation?
It is.
And 3 should be contingent upon the annexation.
Yes, that's right. The number 3 is if you approve the rezoning or deny the rezoning, that's would be contingent upon the annexation of the property.
I make a motion that we approve the rezoning proposal of parcel 1480129, track 3B of V0701101153 and V0701100003 to multifamily residential R14 as requested by Parkside Real Estate Acquisitions LLC, contingent upon the annexation of the parcel 1480129.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I don't generally have a problem with apartments. I rented a place here when I moved here from Peachtree City because my house wasn't ready. So there's all sorts of reasons for people to rent. Either they don't want to mow the grass, or they've got, they know their job is going to move them somewhere soon, or they're new to the environment. They want the time to find a house. All sorts of good reasons. So as long as we're putting in a nice set of apartments, I don't have a problem with that. I do want to make sure that we seriously look at the traffic. And hopefully GDOT will come out and solve that, tell us what we need to do to make it right.
I'll second that. The quantity of apartments in Villarica, we do have enough apartments, but when you have a quality development coming in, we look at that seriously because we like some quality in Villarica. So that's a good thing.
Since it's been mentioned by the applicant, I always also want to say that our city manager has provided us with more than adequate enough information to tell us that we cannot tax ourselves out of the situation that we're in right now, nor can we raise rates, water rates and sewer rates, to make up the difference and to fix all the infrastructure problems that we have in the city. The only way that we can do it is to grow out of those problems. We have to grow in terms of residential, we have to grow in terms of industrial and commercial. All those are elements in that equation. And so I think that we have raised rates to the extent that we probably don't need to raise them again. That's my personal opinion. But we have rolled tax millage rates back for all of the 3 years that I've been your mayor. And but at the same time, we all realize that there are things we have to fix, and or else all of our quality of life is impacted. I've seen apartments, and the reason I mentioned the thing that I did about the green space in the middle, I remember when apartments were nothing but parking lots and buildings. That's all they were, with a little playground stuck somewhere in the background in the woods where they couldn't develop. That's not what this is. This is a quality development. I've looked at it. I'm aware of the facility out in West Cobb County that they referred to. That is a beautiful apartment home complex. Not apartments, they're apartment homes. I'm reminded of that when I talked to the manager, that we have apartment homes here. We don't have apartments. And so I think it's important to understand that. Is there a limit to the number of multifamily dwellings that we have in the city? Absolutely. And that was alluded to also. We have a comp plan that addresses that. Everybody needs to be a part of that process, not just me and not just this council up here. But this fits all the criteria that we have as far as our comp plan is concerned. So for all those reasons, I think it's a quality development. And so those are just my comments.
I just also want to say I'm not generally a fan of apartments. However, this project is not the kind of project that we've experienced in Millerica before. I'm familiar with the project out in Dallas. It is a nice facility. It's a facility that my wife and I, when we were first getting started, actually looked at renting ourselves. So that project or facility has stood the test of time, and I don't have any reason to believe that this similarly won't. So,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? It is unanimous.
And continuing on, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the comp plan and future land use plan map to include parcel number 1480129 to designate it as I-20 Gateway Character Area, to include it within the amended city limits.
second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Okay, if not, all in favor? It is unanimous.
And last but not least, I make a motion to approve the annexation proposal of parcel number 1480129 requested by Parkside Real Estate Acquisitions LLC into the city limits of Villarica from Carroll County.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, item number 2, Ron?
Ron, not as long.
Please, no.
I'll try to keep it short. All right, so I have rezoning application RA-08-19. The applicant is requesting a rezoning of the subject property from the multifamily residential R14 to planned development. The submitted plan development, initial concept plan, and the final concept plan proposes 200 units at a density of 20.1 dwelling units an acre on 9.95 acres of existing developed land, which is currently used as multifamily, with 335 parking spaces. This site that we're talking about is the Housing Authority site on Dallas, that faces Dallas Highway. Walton Communities is the applicant here, and they're applying on behalf of the Housing Authority to redevelop this site. And the plan is to raise the current 50 units that are on the site right now in order to install the 200 units. So it would have a gated entrance and multiple amenities to which they would meet our amenities plan, or requirements rather. The development is proposed also to have a resident clubhouse, a playground area, 1.301 acres of open space, a community seasonal planting garden, playground area, and gazebo. The project proposes a detention pond to capture the stormwater from the site and a street vacation of Walnut Drive. So that would also be coming before you as well, should this be approved, in order to better utilize the land. The project will consist of 110 units of family housing and 90 units of senior housing, directly supporting the comprehensive plan's goals of redeveloping aging sites, providing for several housing choices in the community, and providing more senior housing opportunities. Phase 1 would consist of the senior housing, and Phase 2 would consist of the family housing. And the developer is here this evening to answer any questions.
Okay, questions for staff?
Same problem. Traffic, we request GDOT to, since 61's a Georgia highway, and 200 units, I think GDOT needs to look at that, and the developer needs to comply with GDOT's recommendations.
Yes, and they
Especially,
would.
especially since you're gonna, one of the gated entrances is right off Dallas Highway, so there's turning lanes or things like that to allow people not to stick out in the highway while they're waiting for the gate to open.
Yeah.
I'm sure GDOT would look at the queuing line for sure, with how close that gate is to the, and I would imagine that the state, being that there's a lot of gated apartment complexes, gated single families and the like, all across the state, that they would have standards for that.
Would this be the same amount of units that's already there? Or
No.
would this be more?
It would be a increase of 150 units. So there is 50 units there right now, and it would be a total of 200 units proposed under this plan.
You know how hard it is to get out of the library.
I know, I hate to tell you.
Any other questions of staff? Thank you, Ron. The applicant will come forward at this time.
And I'd also like to mention that the applicant has a presentation as well this evening, if you're so inclined.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Freehill. I'm with Walton Communities. I'm the Senior Project Manager. I'm here tonight with Villa Rica Housing Authority, our development partner for the redevelopment of Old Town homes. Walton Communities is a long-term owner and manager, intergenerational owner and manager of multifamily properties. We've been developing multifamily communities in the Atlanta area for over 30 years. We always say, don't look at a developer's newest community, we look at their oldest. And our oldest affordable community is actually just right down the road at Walton Reserve in Austell. And we'd certainly, I know a lot of you have had an opportunity to come and tour it. For those of you that haven't, we'd certainly welcome you to come on out and take a look and see what we have to offer. So what we have before you tonight is the planned development application for the redevelopment of Old Town homes. Again, as Ron identified, it's 2 phases. One, a 55-plus community, which you'll see identified here as senior, and the Phase 2 community is the multifamily community. We will offer 1- and 2-bedroom apartments in the senior phase and 1-, 2-, and 3-bedroom apartments in the family phase. The first phase was just awarded housing tax credits in the competitive round, and so we'll begin going through the process with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs on that phase. Both phases will be assisted by housing tax credits and made affordable to households from 80% AMI, which is about $63,000 a year for a family of 4. So that includes local police officers, teachers, service industry, as well as current public housing residents at the site who will be relocated as part of the current project, but will have the right to return to the newly developed apartment homes. Rents will be based on household income and governed by a 30-year land use restrictive covenant, and the property will continue to be owned by Villa Rica Housing Authority. On the second slide here, you can see the landscape plan, which includes Main Street with walkable streetscapes, mature oak trees, colorful seasonal planting beds. The entry for both phases of the property will actually be on Old Stone Road, utilizing existing curb cuts for all entries and exits. The access on Dallas Highway is a right-in, right-out for residents only. And then at the current existing Walnut access point would be only for emergency vehicles, so you wouldn't see vehicles coming through that area other than for the existing podiatry office. On the next slide, you'll see an array of the elevations, which show that 30% of the exterior will be brick, with the remainder being hardy plank siding and built to Earthcraft green building standards. 5% will be built out fully handicap accessible. If I can show the next slide. So you see here some of the exterior elevations for our communities. Some of the proposed amenities include an outdoor playground, an outdoor gazebo and picnic area. We'll have a 400 square foot community garden, which will be managed in cooperation with Tanner Medical Center. Inside the community, you'll find community gathering areas in each of the phases. So there'll be a legacy center in the senior phase and a family community center on the family phase. There'll be a laundry center in each phase as well, a library with computers, and a wellness center, again, operated in collaboration with Tanner Medical Center. If you go to the next slide, you'll see some of the signage. Primary signage will be on Dallas Highway, brick or stone with ground lighting for the signage. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Is this community all fenced in? Is it gated?
It will be fenced and gated, yes.
I saw the presentation at Rise and Shine, and it's a significant improvement over what we have.
I'm glad to hear it.
There will be elevators for the, within the building.
In the senior
For
phase,
the-
there will be
yeah.
elevators. In the family phase, it'll be a walk-up.
This looks very familiar to the one we toured up in Marietta.
Oh,
It's
yes.
gated
You are
community.
excellent.
Yeah, it'll be similar to Walton Village, which is one of the elevations that you saw on one of the previous slides. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Nice,
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah.
I think the inception of this project was prior to me coming on council, so I didn't have the experience of the tour and all that stuff. And so my question is, well, and this may be a better question for the Housing Authority representative, but would this project lead to the consolidation of all the different Housing Authority
No.
developments? Okay.
No.
So these will be new residences.
Mhm.
So if there's approximately 100 there now, will be an additional 100.
So it's 62 units on
62,
site currently.
okay.
Mhm, of 1, 2, 3, and 4-bedroom apartments.
Okay.
And we do have Dick Chambers with the Housing Authority here, if you have any specific questions about that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, certainly.
This will open the public comments portion of this rezoning. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this development, please do so at this time. State your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Seeing none, it will revert back to the council. In the way of discussion, since we have 2 new council members, as Councilmember Montahan pointed to, the council went on a trip to visit 3 of their facilities, 3 of Walton Community's facilities, and I was blown away. I mean, they are really, really nice, first class, and I just want to make this point because I'm only going to attend one more meeting. That'll be it. So I'm so excited for this city, and I'm so thankful for the council, one of which is sitting out there as your mayor-elect, because when we went around to these communities, there was a lot of thought put into the whole community as a whole. And to see us on the same night not only approve high-end apartment homes, but also senior housing, which, as has been pointed out, is much better than what we have now. No disrespect toward you, Mr. Chambers, but it's refreshing to see the city looking at it from a holistic standpoint, not only from the high-end apartment homes community, but also from our seniors. So.
Yeah, when we toured the one in Marietta, that facility up there really impressed us, and that's what we asked for, and that's what they have given us here. A real classy place for the seniors to live. So I will make a motion. We finish with it.
Please do so.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the initial and final concept plan to rezone the subject property from multifamily residential R14 to planned development PD, as presented by Walton Communities LLC for property located at 490 Old Stone Road.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any
And
discussion?
could I add in, Mr. Mayor, that I think it's important anytime we have a rezoning to a planned development, as this one is, to state on the record that the submitted plans are conditions of the planned development. We need to make sure that we understand that everything that has been submitted is a condition to the planned development.
Did you get that, Lisa?
Yes, added to the motion that Mr. Carter made, I would say that all presentations made in the submission are included as conditions to the rezoning to planned development.
Do you amend your motion, Councilmember?
Yes, I
McCarthy?
do,
And your
to
second?
include what he said.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So that automatically commits us to abandoning Walnut Drive?
No, I mean, that's a separate action you have to take. All you're doing here is rezoning. And the purpose of adding that in is that planned development is sometimes subjective and that it can mean many different things, but we want to make sure that the person that got the property rezoned understands that what they told us they were going to do, they are going to do it, because that is a condition of the rezoning.
And I totally agree with that.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? It is unanimous. Item number 3, Ron.
I have an application for rezoning. This is RA-07-19. The applicant is requesting a rezoning of the subject property from office institutional OI zone to general commercial GC zone. And the proposed use is for a 48-unit personal care home, a 32-unit independent living facility, and a commercial outparcel for future development. That will directly support the medical uses in the area and provide Villa with a range of housing choices, once again, for seniors. The current O&I zone, nor any of the surrounding land uses except the general commercial zone permit a personal care home or independent living facility. And the future land use map designates the parcel as a medical character area, which is compatible with the proposed uses.
Is he on number 3? I'm showing conditional use.
For the church.
Oh, I skipped one? I have so many tonight. that
Number
I
3,
evidently,
number 3's coming up.
I'm very excited about this one.
We're on CU 0219 at the 101 Three-Way Parkway Church. Well, he's supposed to have been on number 3.
I should read the agenda, right? Okay.
And it wasn't matching up to what I was reading here.
I'm very excited about this senior living, right? We have an application for conditional use, CU-02-19. This came before this council, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 meetings ago, where we had to check into some of the legal rambits a little bit to get our house in order because we had a house of worship that was already out there. We want to treat them the same as the house of worship that has recently applied and that's subject to this application. So I don't know if Mr. Mecklin, if you have anything to really add.
I sent to everyone my legal opinion concerning this earlier today. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer it.
No, I got your opinion and it said that we probably need to correct the last one we did that specified the day they could.
Yes, Ron and I have talked, and I believe that the first church that applied last year for a conditional use, they come up again in December, and I think
Okay.
that'll be an appropriate time to address that issue then.
All right, that's good.
Questions of staff?
So are you saying wait until the?
No, ma'am, on this one, I think we can go ahead and vote.
Okay.
And I guess the point of my memo to you was that you need to treat churches that apply for uses the same as you would any other potential commercial use of the property. You can't treat churches differently just because they are a church. And even though there are issues with regard to parking in this proposed use, that would be true for any type of use of that property by anybody, whether it's a convenience store or a lawyer or anybody. There's parking issues there, but that would be a problem for the church as well as anybody else that might be there.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit application for a church with the aforementioned conditions that the staff has listed here. Do I need to read? I don't need to read these, do I?
I second.
Actually,
Just for the record, did you, and I didn't hear you say the conditions at 101 3 West Parkway, Suite A?
He didn't finish.
Did you mention that in your motion?
Nope, not
No,
yet.
he didn't finish.
There are some conditions for 101 West 3 Parkway, Suite A, and I don't know how that man's, Mr. George.
Okay.
Mayor,
I second.
do we need to have a public
Yeah,
hearing on this?
before you actually vote, I think it would be appropriate to ask if there are anybody who has comments from the public.
Okay, I'll hold my motion until we do that.
In that case, is the applicant present? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this proposal, this,
The applicant's
They
here.
back down in the back, bro.
I didn't see anybody.
The lady on the back.
Oh, come up, let us speak. We won't be mean, we promise.
They were here last. He's blind, I think.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Henry Church. I live in 129 Ashbury Drive, Villarica, Georgia, 30180. Like I said before, this honorable sitting about a month ago, a very excellent place to positively impact in the community is Villarica. We now live in Villarica, and we moved from Douglasville, and by the little we have, we were able to impact in our community in Villarica, in Douglasville. Now we're in Villarica, we want to do better because we have our own property close where we live now. So we want to positively do even more than what we did at Douglasville here in Villarica. So we choose to have the house of worship. There's Plaza at 101 3 West Parkway, Suite A, to positively impart the growth of individual and to promote our community in our own little capacity. So that's what we do.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll open up the public comments portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this request for conditional use, please do so at this time. Okay, seeing none, we'll revert back to the council.
Okay, now the question is, do I need to read these conditions to get them into the record?
If they are written down already in the staff report, I think you can just adopt the conditions as set forth in the staff report.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit application with the conditions specified for a church with the aforementioned conditions at 101 Three-Way Parkway, Suite A, from Mr.
George.
I can't pronounce that.
Said George, dude. That's the last part.
Mr. George.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Once again.
we didn't dim your excitement, did we?
The applicant is requesting a rezoning of the subject property, which is 718 Old Town Road, for the record, from office institutional O&I to general commercial GC. The proposed use is for a 48-unit personal care home, 32-unit independent living facility, and a commercial out parcel for future development, which will directly support the medical uses in the area. The applicant has indicated that development is slated to begin in 4 different phases. The applicant has indicated that the development is slated to be built in 4 different phases. The first phase would consist of a 12,000 square foot personal care home building with 24 rooms. The second phase would consist of a 16 of 16 independent living apartments. The third phase would consist of the second 12,000 square foot personal care home with 24 rooms. And the fourth phase would consist of the last 16 independent living apartments. And the entrance driveway is proposed to be matched with North Avenue at Old Town Road for a seamless pattern of traffic. This should greatly control the egress of the site and synchronize most effectively with the existing traffic pattern.
Questions for staff?
Old Town is a small road, and it's, people cut from 61 over to 101 Rockmart and 61 that way. They cut through there. How much traffic are we expecting this to develop, to bring to that road?
Being that a lot of seniors that would probably be using this facility, some of them may not drive. From my discussions with the developer, that's what's anticipated out there, is that a lot of this folks that would use the personal care home part of this would actually not drive. So there's still parking spots out there. There's still, just in case they do want a car. And so the impact to Old Town Road, I would imagine, would be really small unless it's visitors.
Is that something we could ask the engineer doing our master traffic plan to take a look at?
We absolutely should.
Yeah. I agree. Anytime we put in a complex like this, we need to look at the traffic.
Ron, why general commercial? Why not a PUD or R14 or some other multifamily?
Well, general commercials and the general facility, general vicinity of this particular lot, that's what they applied for. It's something that that would easily accommodate that because it's a permitted use. So being that it's permitted already in one of the zones that we already have on the record and in this general vicinity, creating a plan unit development for something that's essentially commercial in operation would be kind of counterproductive to when we already have zones that are already out there.
So in O&I, do they allow this in O&I though? Okay.
No.
I know in some communities they do that. I mean, is this the least intensive zoning category that this would fit in?
Yeah, I took a look at several zones in the general facility. You can actually see on page 6 of your staff report all of the different zones. It's a mishmash of different zones that are out there. All of them are residential in nature, general commercial, being that it's specifically for this use. Other than the commercial out parcel that would be developed in the future, would have a really low amount of traffic. It would be the lowest zone. Like when we're looking at our zone categories, this will be the lowest one for a personal care home of any type that it can actually go into, other than one of the residential zones. So. And of course, rezoning it residential would be counterproductive to the commercial out parcel because that wouldn't be permitted.
Ron, I don't see it on here, and forgive me if I'm just overlooking it, but did planning and zoning review this also?
Yes, the Planning Commission did review it. They recommended it to the City Council and with a unanimous vote in favor of the development.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
One of the comments in the P&Z discussion was the possibility of restricting the commercial use on the out parcel. So that's something that council may want to entertain after we talk to the applicant.
Any
Ron,
questions? Go ahead.
What is the out parcel considered to be? Is that flare that comes off on Old Town?
It is, yes. There's a flare that touches Susan Drive and actually you can see it on, it's in one of your exhibits as well, but you can see it pretty well on page 6 of my staff report. It's that section that directly touches the corner of Susan Drive.
Okay. And because this is all one parcel, there's no, it's not, this is all one parcel, right? Even though we call it an out parcel, but it's all one continuous parcel.
Currently, yes, in the way that it's being proposed, yes, to stay as one parcel. There should be a sheet that looks like this.
Okay, yes.
Submitted. Mhm.
And so what is their expected use for the out parcel portion then?
It hasn't been.
Maybe you presented that already.
No, it actually hasn't been disclosed.
Okay. But for the remainder of the parcel, it's supposed to be the senior living facility.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else? Is the applicant present? Yes. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
We paid a lot of money for that.
Didn't start well. Good evening. My name's John Moore. My address is 228 North Springs Way, Ackworth, Georgia. So I'm the development supervisor for this project. We're building personal care homes for seniors, and our value set is to bring high-quality personal care homes closer to where people live. So rather than folks going to the more institutional type setting, they can have a beautiful home type setting near where they presently live. And the market for the Villa area says there's a need for about 278 beds, also known as exactly 278 beds according to the market study, presently for personal care homes. Right, presently in the U.S. there's 1 million people that are in personal care homes and assisted living facilities, and between now and 2030 there's going to be a need for 3 million. That's because folks like me are getting older. But the average person that moves into one of our personal care homes is 88 years old. And this is probably going to be one of the last places that they're going to be. Instead of being near a family, it's really good when they come into our place. They come into a home-like setting. Of our 12,000 square feet, for the front 5,000 square feet is beautiful living area, high ceilings, beautiful view of a interior garden where they can go out and enjoy the sunshine and beautiful flowers and walkways where there's no ability to trip. And then when they go to the hallways where the homes are, so it's a hotel type setting. Every suite is individualized. There's no shared rooms. The only time that there is a shared room, say there are a few rooms that connect, but then each of those bedrooms has its own bathroom. So in every unit, there's room for a bed. We can do up to a queen size bed. We can also handle the medical beds when that's necessary. And when they also have a sitting area, then they have a small kitchenette area. None of the cooking is done in that room, but they do have a refrigerator. They have a microwave. Then they have storage, and then they have a roll-in shower. So it's nothing in the facility allows there to be any tripping that can going on. And it's just a super classy facility. And so we build 12,000 square foot initially, license it as a 24-bed personal care home, which is the same qualification for the state as an assisted living facility. And then our senior apartments are quite different than the other type that you were talking about tonight. First of all of ours are on one level. So everything on our site is just simply no trip, one level. Second is the people that move into our apartments, we do provide meal service for them. So they're checked in on every day. The chance that there will be more than 15 cars in the entire facility.
How long?
That's good. You give me the high sign and I'll start again. Sure. So when folks move into our apartments, they're really looking to reserve a bed for themselves later on in the personal care home. And so but it is independent living. They can have a car there. The folks that live in our assisted living, our personal care home, they can't have a car. So that's not allowed. Even though we have parking spaces there, that's really just for the staff and folks that are visiting. So the total amount of traffic, you can't even make up a scenario where you could have 6 acres of land that has less cars on it. There's not another. I mean, I challenge you, unless I can't think of one. And then we would be more than willing to restrict our zoning, because the commercial zoning, that is a little broad in my thinking. We're certainly willing to have that commercial zoning stipulated to be exactly what we're talking about. This number of beds, that number of senior apartments. And then also that our out parcel, we do have intentions for it. It is meant to be medical space. So we're hoping that a doctor's office or other medical office buildings will be there right across from the hospital. We just think our location we're just so excited we can hardly stand it. It's really, really a great spot because our folks don't have to come out of the facility. The few that drive, they get to come out on North Avenue before they come out onto 61. So they have their option of not having to get on 61, which a lot of them will take. So that we're very happy with the location. All of our construction, brick construction, just really, really pretty. Very, very pretty stuff.
This question is not directed at you because I don't know you personally. I don't know your developments and what you run, but this may be a David question. We have had at least one other project that started out as a senior community. It ended up being, just anybody because they couldn't fill it up with seniors. So what guarantee does this city have that that's not going to happen with this multifamily dwelling?
Well, I think you can accept his proposal to adopt the plans submitted as being a condition of the rezoning. Whether or not you can put any type of age restrictions, I don't think so.
And it's not uncommon for a personal care home or assisted living facility or this type of apartments to have folks that have some disablements that are there too. They just need the type of care. We aren't allowed to age restrict. It's against the law, actually, to age restrict any of our facilities for care. But in those cases, we're very, very careful about the culture of what goes in one of our facilities because it's a make or break.
What is your construction time plan on this?
So our hope is to have our land disturbance permit by March, and we would hope to open it right about this time next year. Would be when the first phase would open. We're only building 12,000 square foot in the first part. So the first part of it is like a home. It's large ceilings, open. It's built on an 11-foot high. Basic ceiling height, and it soars above that. Then the main part of the dormitory area, it's not dormitories at all, but it's like a hotel. 9-foot ceilings and truss built there. So it's a pretty quick construction process. 7,000 square feet in the hall in the dormitory hallway areas, and then the main area up front is about 5,000 square feet.
Just for the record, I wasn't saying that you had anybody. You could only have seniors there. You said that most of your folks that live there, this was the last facility they'd ever lived in.
That's true. Yeah, I was just saying that's really the statistics say that's the way it is.
But the purpose is for construction of a personal care home. So that's the restriction that I think this council needs to hang its hat on.
That'd be right.
Is a personal care home, whether they're seniors or whomever.
Thank you for clarifying that.
As long as it fits the criteria of personal care home.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, what you described is one that my uncle lives in Fayetteville, and they are nice. If it's anything like that one, I told him I'd like to go there if I had to go to the person, because all you describing it's called Hertz, I think, down in Fayetteville. But
the facility that we're modeled after exists in Jasper now, and it's just spectacular. They're on their 4th phase now, and it's just spectacular. I would want my mom to be there.
Yeah.
So you're saying the initial construction by this time next year is the one you're saying is 24 rooms? Is that?
Yes, sir.
That's just the first part?
Yes, sir.
You're going to build
so
that first?
we do our thing in about 2.5 million segments. We do the first section, make sure that it fills up and that it's filled. Then we do 16 apartments, and then we do another 24 beds, and then we do the last 16 apartments. And it's a 5-year phased in project. We fill it up as we go.
So will you accept the condition then that the entire parcel, including the proposed commercial out parcel, would be limited to use as a personal care home independent living facility?
No, sir, not the out parcel.
Okay.
But for everything except the parcel.
Well, I think the issue is though, since it's all one parcel, I don't know how we can apply, and maybe this is a David question, but how we can apply different stipulations to the same parcel.
I'm not looking at the
Right,
plan.
I don't-
If it is all in one parcel, then the conditions that you apply would apply to the whole thing. You know, I suspect there is some way that you could segregate the two parcels. Is it cut out in some way on the plan?
It's just designated separately.
You can't bring that up, Lisa? That layout he has. That layout right there. Right.
Yeah, just looking at the plan that Bobby handed me, it's designated as commercial out parcel. I think you could put different conditions on that than you can from the rest of the parcel.
So would you be, excuse me, sir, would you be acceptable to the condition then that it would be independent care, excuse me, personal care home, independent living facility, or medical office?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
That's exactly what we're proposing.
thank you, sir.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, as it is a rezoning, so anyone wishing to speak for or against this rezoning, please do so at this time. State your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
Good night, everyone. I just have a quick question. A bit curious.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
For 651 Old Town Road, a bit curious concerning that street, that North Street, because we have a retirement building there. So I just want to be sure what's going to be the rezoning project there, if it's going to be an effect to 651 Old Town.
I'm not sure on.
I believe, do you live at 651 Old Town Road?
We have a retirement.
Okay, and as I understand it, the question is what is going to be
It's a commercial.
the impact? This proposed rezoning is to allow a personal care facility be built at 718 Old Town Road. Have you seen the plans for the?
Not quite, but just curious to know if it's anything to affect the 651 from North Street.
There's actually going to be no rezoning of your particular property. It's just this specific parcel. So there's going to be no impact from a legal.
Ron, can you step up to the mic? So
Sure.
Yeah, trains are out in force.
I didn't want to. So there's going to be no change to her specific property. This is a rezoning only for the parcel in question for the assistant care facility or for the independent care facility. There's no widespread rezoning of the general vicinity. There's a train.
We're busy
That was
tonight.
going slow, too.
Yeah, it is.
Speak
You
real
kind of
quick.
pick up on this after a while, where they're running. I can tell you the Amtrak trains that go by,
Mhm. You know that's a slow one,
that's not Amtrak.
long one. Mhm.
So
just
there's going to be,
requested,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So there's no change.
She's a slow moving. Wouldn't listen.
Thank you. And just
He's not through yet. He's going that way.
He's just
Okay.
messing with you now, Ron.
You long-winded.
2 minutes.
Go for it.
All right. So, Councilman Montan, you spoke about the conditions and possibly having them all together for the entire property. I think one of the biggest insurances against this changing over to residential is the fact that he is applying for general commercial, which apartment buildings are not permitted in at all.
Actually, my concern was that the digital commercial zoning was my concern, that it wouldn't be something, that we would get something unrelated entirely
A
to.
7-Eleven?
I understand.
Exactly.
I
Thank you.
understand
That
If
was
I-
my
Thank
If I
concern.
can, we were in the middle of public comment, so let's finish up
I'm
the public
sorry.
comments
Sorry.
portion of it, and then we'll revert back to staff. So, anybody else want to speak for or against this rezoning? Okay, seeing none, we'll revert back to the council. Please proceed.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, that was it. It's a general insurance, being that it was general commercial, but I understand your point now, about having alternative types of retail or what have you, commercial.
Thank you, sir.
Speaking of assurances, and to your point, this particular property is being rezoned because it addresses a deficiency in the current commercial zoning. Under the new zoning ordinance, which we'll talk about here momentarily, this property will be zoned to office, medical, institutional. So that really kind of fits in line with the type of future use that you are wanting to protect moving forward. So,
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, David, I'm gonna, since there were a couple of questions that I think are appropriate, do you want to frame this motion? If the council's ready for a motion?
I'll be glad to. I think Councilman Montahan's proposal was a good one.
Okay. Then I'll take it from.
I'll let you just word it the way you want to.
Okay. So I make a motion to approve the rezoning of the subject property from office and institutional OI to general commercial as presented by Land Art USA LLC for the property located at 718 Old Town Road, subject to the conditions that the property be, that the uses of the property be limited to personal care home, independent living facility, and or medical office.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not all in favor? It is unanimous. Ron, you have had a busy night, sir. Item number 5, Bobby, I believe you're going to handle this one.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, I'll start off, and then Tom's going to interject as we go along. At our last meeting, we presented the upgrade of the downtown business district lighting. There's 98 high-pressure sodium Akron light fixtures that are grossly outdated. They're the new technology is LEDs. And back a couple of years ago, when Georgia Power upgraded all of the high-pressure sodiums to LEDs, there was no fixtures available in LED to change out these Akron top fixtures. So we asked Georgia Power to give us a couple of proposals on changing out the 98 fixtures. And they proposed 2 alternatives. In your packet, you have both, I believe. And I'll do the second one first. The second alternative is for Georgia Power to acquire and install 98 new LED fixtures to replace the ones we have with 0 upfront cost by the city on a long-term lease program, and I emphasize long-term lease. The 98 lights will cost us $2,842 a month. The second alternative is for us to pay down this lease up front with an $80,403 payment, which will basically get us down to the maintenance and the actual power on these lights per month. And we'll go back to the $2,842 option. I think that comes to, with 98 lights, comes to like $29 per light per month. And if we go the other route, according to your cover sheet, the $80,403 up front gets us to $7.73 per light per month. 1995, the original lights were installed, and we've been paying about $1,600 a month for the last 24 years. So I really believe it's a no-brainer that we do the upfront payment to reduce the light cost to just maintenance and power per month. This is not a budgeted item.
Go sit down.
So,
Because what we did, we looked at this back middle of last year when we were working on the budget. We knew we wanted to replace the lights. So we just put enough money in the budget to cover the additional per month charge from $1,600 that we're currently paying to the $2,800 and something that we're going to. And then, we had our meeting with Georgia Power, and quite frankly, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and in fact, it turned out to be the truth. So that being said, Tom and I have talked, and we think we have cash to do it. The current lights that we have, we can't keep them repaired, and they're just out there. They're 24 years old. They really do need to be upgraded. So,
All right, just for clarification, we are replacing the bulbs, not the Acorn fixture.
we're
not the
replacing the
overhead Cobra.
total fixture
Yeah.
on 98 lights, the whole thing, the total fixtures.
All right.
we replaced them with LED fixtures.
Yes, that is correct.
Which lasts a lifetime almost and costs about half the power to operate.
Okay, my question was, what are we gonna do about the Acorn lights downtown? Is that, you say Cobra heads, that's not,
No. We are talking about the Acorn lights downtown.
we are gonna replace them?
The old ones will be
Good,
gone. The
good.
new ones will replace all of them.
Good. Just wanted clarification.
Yes, sir.
Tell them how much we paid on the old.
For 24 years.
$468,000.
For the ones we have now.
Yes.
It's a no-brainer.
It's an endless lease.
Because, we met with Georgia Power, and I'm like, no, wait a minute. No. We get the fixtures paid off. This lease amount's doesn't. So,
In the lighting services agreement for the prepayment, in the project notes, there's a statement that customer is eligible to purchase GPC lights once the 2-year break-even is reached. Does that mean anything?
that doesn't help us at all.
No.
Because we can't actually purchase the light fixtures, and he made that plain to us. If Georgia Power is going to maintain it, and, if we're going to pay the power bill on it, they've got to own the lights. They won't do it any other way. So I really don't know why he put that in there, unless he was trying to soften the blow a little bit.
Yeah, paying any kind of leasing fee isn't smart because we're not earning any money on the cash that we got sitting in the bank. What do we get, Sarah? 40 basis points or 15 or 15? I mean, we're not even earning the better half of 1%. And I don't know what the lease rate is, but I can bet you it's more than 1%.
Well, do we need to carry this one out? I mean, I'd like to make a motion.
Please do, sir.
Yes, sir, this is a no-brainer. We don't want to pay another $400,000 for the lights over a period of time, so I'll make a motion, we authorize city manager to order the replacement of 98 downtown streetlights from Georgia Power for an upfront payment, $80,403, reducing the cost of the light per light to $7.73 per month.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And Mr. Mayor, there will be a budget amendment forthwith on this.
We expect that,
Sarah will find the money.
but over the long haul, we'll make money.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, item number 6.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and public. Welcome to the second half of the Community Development Variety Show here. I will be taking up the next hour and a half reading the 276 pages of the zoning ordinance.
I bet you won't be reading it by page.
The reason I'm here is actually just to kind of get you guys caught up to speed. The Planning Commission on November the 5th had an affirmative recommendation to the City Council with edits included to be forwarded as a recommendation to move forward. Those edits have been provided to the City Council in electronic format in a red line version of the current draft. So I wanted to take the opportunity to see if there were comments, concerns, or omissions or objectives, objections, but I think we're kind of, in the interest of time, going to move beyond that. I do want to request that the City Council members provide us with their comments to the ordinance by December the 10th, which would be by the next City Council meeting in December. That will give us the opportunity to create a final red line version of the document to provide to the City Council for a first read at the first meeting in January, and keep us on track for an adoption of the ordinance by the end of the second council meeting on January the 28th. So with that said, I have been in communication with several of the council members with regard to the comments, and will arrange to meet with them individually as their schedules allow to go through their line items and make sure those changes are incorporated into the document. So with that said, I'm open to any questions or comments related to this matter in the interest of time.
What is the remedy for the non-conforming lots that, like 48% of the multifamily residential lots are non-conforming?
Well, what we're doing is we're creating one new multifamily zone classification that will allow greater density with respect to the nonconformity of single-family residential lots. We're creating a new additional zoning category which addresses smaller lots, which we find closer into the downtown core. We also are addressing let me back up and address this one point. The significant amount of nonconformity in single-family residential zoning, for example, are that there is only one classification for single-family residential, and that's 25,000 square foot lot area. And if you look at the citywide, what are the percentages that are below that? And so they're automatically non-conforming. So we want to create new zoning classifications which more clearly reflect what we actually have on the ground, as well as address the uses. For example, as we mentioned in the rezoning case 2 agenda items ago, and looking to make sure that those things are actually tied to where they should actually be in the zoning classification system. I'm sorry for a long answer, but.
Chris, this is a comment rather than a question, but Councilmember McPherson is not here tonight.
Yes.
So, I don't know how she would feel about having this back for her to vote on at the December 10th meeting. Don't know where she is on it, how much she's.
No, we're not voting on it on the 10th. I just need all the comments back from the council members by the 10th so that I can provide.
She's not here to be able to do that. So I'm just
Sure.
pitching that out. I don't know how the other council members feel. I thought you said December.
That's when the comments.
It's when you want the comments to be in.
You're still going to have to read it and understand it.
We're not going to vote on it till next year.
I get that, but you're still going to have to read it and understand it by December
Yes.
10th to have the comments back, right?
She's working on it, she told me.
Yes.
Okay, y'all are voting, I'm just telling you.
Correct.
Y'all
She and I have
can
been in communication.
If you'll hold on just a minute.
I'm sorry, apologize.
If the council feels, I'm just, giving you the opportunity to say that you don't have until, that you understand that what he's asking is you get the comments back to him by December 10th. If y'all are okay with that, then I am, because I don't vote.
I'm fine.
Even though he's trying to direct everybody to get their comments in, the council has the power to continue to change it to January or June or 2021.
We just need a deadline.
I'm just trying to keep us on schedule, that's all.
I understand.
Yeah. And Councilmember McPherson and I have had numerous communications, and she wants to get together with me around the second week of December to meet and actually go through her comments.
Well, David, this is a question for you. Since we have a new mayor coming in, I would like for that new mayor to also have input in that. Is that appropriate?
Absolutely. And I think by virtue of his taking office, he will have as much input as he chooses to have.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all.
So this is for information purposes only, so no motion is necessary. Okay, thanks, Chris.
That concludes our show. Y'all have a good night.
Item number 7 was an added agenda as appointment to fill vacancy of planning and zoning person.
Okay.
Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So the recent resignation of Planning and Zoning Commission member Kurt Kraft, who my understanding is they, quote, represent different wards in the city. Mr. Kraft represented Ward 2, which is my ward. Therefore, I had inquired about filling his vacancy. I think we have 6 applications. I reviewed all 6 of those applications. And reviewing those applications is one of the reasons why I made my council update earlier about encouraging others to look into other avenues where they can serve the city. That's very important to me. So I do hope that some of the applicants who that applied for this position would consider that too. But in reviewing the applications, I would like to move to fill the vacancy for the Ward 2 for Kurt Kraft's unexpired term with David Rogers. That is my proposal. And I think, I don't know if I can do a formal motion now or if we want to talk about it first, but.
All right, David, let me ask this question. Would it be appropriate, and Matt and I talked about this, would it be appropriate to get the council to approve the change to fill the vacancy of the planning and zoning director and then do that separately, or is it?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but if the question is, can you act on
Right.
what I understood was a motion to appoint David Rogers, I think you can act on that tonight. Yes, it's been our custom that.
Just to clarify, David, the term expires 12/31, so we would redo it again in January.
Okay. So you're just appointing him for the
To fill the
period of really
unexpired
the next
term.
month?
Pretty much.
Tom, did you have some different point you wanted to make?
Yeah, I don't know how, we haven't done one of these in my experience, so.
It-
We can't appoint him to fill the unexpired and then for the next term at the same time?
I thought we were gonna
No,
stagger
I don't
those
think
terms.
so. I think we would fill the unexpired term.
Aren't we gonna work on staggering those terms?
Yeah, I think that was part of the plan, is to stagger the terms rather than appointing all 5 people for 1-year terms, that we were going to lengthen the terms and to have 2 appointed and then the other 3 appointed so that there would be staggered terms. That's in the works. It's not on the books yet.
And I did have discussions with staff by email about the staggered terms and how that compares to what's on the website. I don't know if anybody from staff wants to address that or not, but.
But as far as his motion to appoint, I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second as far as discussion is concerned. So what I hear you're doing is we're going to appoint David for a term of how long?
To fill out this.
End of the year.
1 month?
Right.
And then we're going to do it all again?
Apparently, because I think there's a couple, my understanding is there's his
I think all
appointment.
five- all 5 of them are
one
coming
other
up again.
appointment.
Yeah,
would
they
be
all
up for
come up for renewal now at the beginning of the year because we haven't staggered them yet.
But they serve until replaced.
That's true.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Congratulations, David. So we will swear him in.
At the next, when's the next?
2 months in a row.
Yeah.
Okay. Tab C, Human Resources, Stephanie.
Good evening, everyone. I have 3 items tonight. The first is the request to have Mr. Barber sign the agreement with Health 180, who is the vendor that does our biometric screening. Our biometric screening is an integral part of our wellness plan. So if you don't partake in this biometric screening, then your insurance premiums will be impacted. Also, this also allows us to send the results to our health provider, not health provider, but our wellness plan provider, and they will tell us in an aggregate year over year how the city's doing health-wise. They will also identify people that are in a red zone, that things are too high, and they will contact them to coach them. Maybe they're not taking their meds correctly, maybe they haven't gone to the doctor in several years, or they have undiagnosed problems that need to be taken care of. In the past 2 years, we have actually done this on-site. This year, we're proposing to go, everyone needs to go off-site to a LabCorp location, either in Villa Rica or in Carrollton. The cost will be $110 per person to do this. So my motion is to have Mr. Barber sign the agreement with Health 180, not to exceed the amount of $16,500. This is an overestimate because I based it on the total population of benefits eligible employees.
I've got a question. David, have you had a chance to look at this contract?
I looked at the existing contract that we had in place for last year. I don't know if there are any proposed changes from that one to the new one or not.
The only proposed changes are to make everybody go to LabCorp on their own versus doing an on-site blood draw.
Okay, a copy of this agreement was not provided for us to look at. It was not in my layout here. I didn't see the agreement.
Okay, then I can send it to you, but it's the same agreement that it was last year and the year before that.
Well, to Councilman Carter's, as a department head, when you come to the council and ask for something, you need to have that information with you.
Yes, sir.
We need to see it in advance so we can review it before we vote on something for him to sign.
Yes, sir.
So I don't see how we can vote on this tonight, on this particular item. I would have to vote no because I haven't seen the agreement.
Before you make a motion or something, let me say something. I have a real problem with this. I'm not sure if, David, if you've looked at this and you feel like this is permissible, then that's fine, but what we're doing is basically telling our employees that they have to go get blood tested. Who is that information going to? Is it going to our third-party source? Where is that going to be stored at?
It's not stored locally. Okay, we only see an aggregate, which is
who has
everybody
it?
all in one, okay?
Who has it?
Who has it? It will be Health 180 stores it and then sends it to AIM.
I think for
I've
me-
had some questions raised to me also just about the trail of where the information goes, and I don't have an answer to that tonight. I think it bears looking into so that we have an understanding of what the trail of the information is, so that we can have some assurance to ourselves that our employees, private information is being protected. I have no reason to believe that it isn't, given that we're 2 years into this, but we at least ought to know the definitive answer to that question, and I don't.
And I would expect that would to be in the agreement, some sort of chain of custody, some assurances of HIPAA, complying with HIPAA and so forth. And without that, I'm not going to put out on a limb.
The chain of custody, I will provide the documentation to you tomorrow, but the chain of custody is from LabCorp to Health 180 to AIM.
I hear you saying that, Stephanie, and I'm not picking on you. I'm just telling you, if I was an employee and you told me you didn't have that chain of custody that I could look at, then I wouldn't like that idea. I want to know if people sign a chain of custody on signing their name and how their information, their email addresses are given out to other people, shouldn't we do something at least that much for giving blood work? I mean, that tells your whole history as a person. The fact of the matter, I just pulled the numbers today. 35% of Georgians are HIV positive.
We don't see that.
I hear you saying that, But if I'm an employee and I'm a diabetic, I'll use me. How is the city going to use that information? Are they going to go up on my insurance because I'm diabetic? Or I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying we, the council, and I'm speaking for me, don't have enough information to make an informed decision on
Okay.
that tonight.
Okay, but let
What
me
I'm-
point out one other thing. It said, I read in here that if they refuse to do this, then they get charged a higher insurance premium rate.
That is correct, because they are
Because-
not participating in the health wellness plan. This is
Okay,
an
but
integral
I
part of the
think
wellness plan.
that being the case, I think they ought to be able to review the lab results themselves and just make the decision after they review it themselves as to whether or not they want to pass on that information or pay the higher rate. I think that's a choice they need to have.
Nah, that's not in the agreements at all.
The way that it happened last year is if you didn't want to participate, you just didn't have the blood drawn,
Right.
because it was voluntary.
And like you were saying, Mr. Mayor, is I can't affect your premiums anyway, because I don't know what you have. Because I don't see your name other than that you signed up and had your blood drawn, period. That's all I see.
But you will be able to affect my premium if this gets approved.
If you don't
If you
participate.
don't participate. We just feel like the LabCorp would be more professional than the setup that we've had the last 2 years.
If you do participate and they find something irregular going on within your blood work, what happens
I
to
do
that?
not see it. I do not see it. None of us see it.
The
Tom
insurance
doesn't see
company
it.
doesn't
I
see
don't
it.
see it. AIM sees it and calls you.
That's what we hired AIM to do, is to coach the folks that are in trouble. And that's also a point of participation, so people can refuse to do that too.
Let me ask one final question. Is this time sensitive?
Yes, because we were going to have the blood draws done in January. We were going to have everybody go from January 1st to January 31st to have their blood drawn.
So if we do December 10, can we still do that?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I
if
think
not,
we have to
if
push it
not,
out to
we'll move it back.
February.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of moving it back to February to December.
Yeah, I
If you
mean,
do it
it's
in
our
January.
program,
Right,
right? LabCorp is open
right.
every day, so they don't care.
Any more questions?
Mr. Curley?
I would entertain a motion.
I'm going to make a motion, we table this to the next meeting to give us a chance to review the agreement, which we haven't seen yet.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to table to the December 10th
Yes.
meeting. Any discussion? Not, all in favor? All opposed?
I won't oppose. I just abstain because I'm not on the insurance plan. So, whatever is best for the employees is okay with me.
Okay.
That's
So officially, the vote is 3-1. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is the proposal to go ahead with the electronic performance management system through NeoGov. This is a budgeted item. This is a electronic performance management program. It is web-based. Every employee and every supervisor will have a login. Okay, this is an electronic performance management and evaluation system. This will save the manager's time. They can actually go in and make notes on people's excellent performance, or as it happens, or any negative performance as well. So you're not at the end of the year trying to rack your brain and say, oh, well, they've been great for the last 2 months, and that's usually what they end up being evaluated on. That's called the recency error. So this will allow the employees and the supervisors to make notes before their evaluation.
Okay, he's signing a purchase agreement.
Yes.
We didn't get a copy of that either, did we?
Yes, you did, I believe.
Let me look
Is it
back
in
here.
there?
Does this answer the age-old problem that the city council has had with management reviews?
We are doing evaluations currently. They are paper-based, they are hard to track. We review them every time they come in. We review them for goals, we review them for previous goals, the how they did on achieving those goals and what the new goals are. I read them all, Tom reads them all.
But this system will replace the paper, and
Yes.
everybody will get a performance review at least annually.
Yes. And everybody does get one now, at least annually.
I'm not opposed to it, I just would like to see the agreement he's going to sign, which is not in here. I'm sorry.
Yes, Stephanie, all we have is the executive summary.
Yeah, no, Stephanie did send that agreement to me, and I did review it, and I didn't see any legal problems with it. I will say that it was complicated enough that I needed to get Jim to come serve as an interpreter for me to read it, but I didn't see any legal problems with it.
Okay, here's the problem I've got, or question I got. I mean, this is one system. How did we choose, where's the rationale how we chose this system?
Because NeoGov is actually tailored to government, municipalities and counties. This was one that was brought to a conference that I went to. We did look at some other ones that just weren't as robust as this one. Also, this one has the next item is a learning management system that is integrated within this system. And the learning management system actually will track people's training, what kind of training they may need based on their performance. So, and allow the employees to take that training anywhere at any time. They can do it at their desk, they can do it at home, whenever their schedule fits it.
Where can I find that?
What, the learning management
What
system?
you just said.
In this, I sent you the document on learning management also.
Okay, when you sign this purchase agreement, how long is that in effect for? Is that,
1 year.
that's a one-year deal?
So Stephanie, were there other management systems geared towards government that you considered, just to be clear?
Actually, there weren't any more that were geared towards government that
Okay.
I saw. They were all geared towards corporate, and they just weren't what we needed. This one is actually geared towards, like I said, the government sector.
Thank you.
Do you have to do any customization for any particular issues that our government
We
has?
can actually customize anything that we want to, being the performance evaluations or the learning management. We can develop our own training. We can use our own form, which I don't like very much, and see what, what they propose. But yes, we can customize it if we so choose. And this was a budgeted item. Both of these systems were a budgeted item.
It's just we don't get to see the agreement.
It's actually a purchase order. It's not really, what
I don't
David
have the
saw was
motion in front of me, so I can't.
what did you see? Did you see a contract?
I think it was a purchase order, but it did have
Purchase
terms and conditions to it. So yes, it was a contract.
I'm scared. What'd you say, David? Didn't catch
I
that.
said that Stephanie asked me what I had read, and I read a purchase order that did include terms and conditions, so that does constitute a contract.
Is there any reason why we can't put this one on hold until we get a copy of it? Tom?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, I'll make a motion, we table this to the next meeting, so that we get a copy and read it.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, and way of discussion. I swore I wasn't gonna be like Judge Judy when I left out of here. But when y'all come, and I'm not gonna look at you, Stephanie, because I don't wanna think you're picking on me, but if you're a department head and you're watching out here in this crowd, or you're watching on TV, be forewarned. Because the council expects you to come to them with the information that they need to make an informed decision, period. I've made this comment a half a dozen times in 3 years. So when you come to this council, I won't be the mayor next time, and the next guy may be Judge Judy. Because I know he watches it. So just, everything that you bring everything, bring everything that you need for this council to make an informed decision, such as contracts, such as terms of an agreement, such as, chain of custody, whatever those things are. So just fireworks. Let me get off, Stephanie. Whatever it is, just make sure you bring this council the information they need, or you might end up not getting it approved. End of rant. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed?
I'm going to abstain. I don't have the motion in front of me, so I'm not,
Then you should vote no,
yeah,
in my opinion.
okay.
But I'm not telling you how to vote. You vote however you want.
Yeah, I'll vote no. I don't
Okay,
have
so it's 3-1.
Okay, the next one is the same setup. We don't have a copy of that purchase agreement. Did you
It's
review the
same-
third one,
It's the
David?
same purchase agreement. They were both on the same one.
So we'll get both the second and third at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you get all three at the same time. The first, second, and third.
Do I need to table the third one?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table item 3 to the next meeting so we get a copy to read it.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to table to the December 10th meeting. All in favor? All opposed? 3-1. Okay, tab D is Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item that is before you, I'm actually glad to be able to bring this forward. At this point, I know we've been talking about it for some time, but this is a request of approval for a software vendor for Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services. In your cover sheet, you'll just see where we had an opportunity just to kind of do a very brief overview so you can understand. We put out to bid, we got 2 responses back, one being Capture Point, the other being Civic Rec, and I believe the city uses Civic Rec for some of its other software in the city, so we'd actually just be adding another module. But just generally, kind of what I want to do is just kind of start to talk about our recommendation and how we kind of came about. We're making a recommendation of Capture Point for the software vendor, but just kind of wanted to give you an idea of where we are as it relates to the fees. Essentially what the annual subscription fee is, and really the other component of that that we have discussed over the years, just specifically our credit card fees. I kind of want to jump into that right away, just to see, get a little bit more feedback from you guys on how you want to handle that. Traditionally, I believe with some of the other departments, when they have online software where they're processing payments, I think the discussion had pretty much been where those payments were passed on to the particular end user. In this particular case, I do want to point out that we renegotiated the fees on our software, on our credit card applications a few years back. So what we're proposing, ours were a little bit lower. This kind of comes in line with the other software percentages, if you will, that the city is using, that the city has, with some of the other software systems that they have. So I want to kind of give me some feedback on whether this is something that you still want to hold where the department is really the city absorbs the credit card fees, or if it's something that you want to consider passing on to those who are registering for our different programs as well. So I just kind of want to point that out up front. I will say with what I've kind of provided here as a general snapshot, there are some additional fees that both of the respondents put out there for us, but those are all one-time fees. And essentially what that is going to require is the customization that comes with the software. We're going to spend quite a bit of time really customizing the GIS portion. We were approved a few months ago with changing the pricing structure of the department's athletic registration. And so we're going to, again, be pulling in a lot of the GIS data that we're going to have to tailor for resident, non-resident, and other. In addition to that, we I'm going to explore, if you will, what the integration will look like with Cassell, because essentially what we need to figure out is, are we going to be exporting reports and then integrating it to Cassell, or whether it will be like full integration in Cassell. All of those for both software providers will add some additional costs, but ultimately the recommendation for CapturePoint was the lowest cost in terms of overall subscription and one-time service fees. I'm going to just kind of turn it over to you. What I really think, or what I'm looking for from you, is really how you might want to handle the kind of payment gateway fees, if that's a concern for yours as it relates to passing those fees on. Because again, as I mentioned, it's not something that we have traditionally done.
The staff cover sheet has us making a motion to approve the annual subscription fee of $4,750.
That's what your
But it
agenda
doesn't
is.
ask us to approve the $10,500 for all the one-time costs.
Yeah, so.
I think that should be all wrapped up in one. It's the cost to put the system in, and its first-year annual fee.
You make a great point.
Hang on just a second.
Oh, sorry. What I wanted to do, I kind of wanted to, which is kind of why I segregated the points, I wanted to make a point of really what's the ongoing fee. What both of them did provide was the opportunity if we could break up the one-time fees, but specifically the GIS integration of the additional $3,000 is the one-time fee, and what I'm going to see is which one works best between the financial report or the exporting. One is a report, the other one is full integration, so we're not looking at both. But what it does is it goes in and explain what that option is. But yes, to your point, it probably should have better described that would have been an additional $4,750 with the one-time cost, one-time optional cost, and then the other $4,500 of, again, training and fully setting up and customizing everything.
So Vicki, is what I just heard you say, that these numbers, it's not actually 4,750, there's an additional cost for setup and.
Right, and the full customization. So the $4,750, that is the annual subscription fee every year going forward. The one-time fees, if you're looking at page 12, that goes in and describes it in a little bit more detail. Are you on page? You see page 12, where it goes in and discuss really what would be required for customization.
And how much of the optional piece below that are you really interested in?
The GIS integration and
One
what
of
I
the-
haven't had the conversation with finance, my preference would be full integration, but I don't know what's possible I haven't had a conversation with Cassell. The only other option, again, is creating the software. Probably the least one is creating software where it exports a report that could then be imported into Cassell.
Which requires actions on Sarah's part to take the export and import it into her system somehow and map it, Jim to map it.
So my preference again would be full integration, but that's a conversation. So I can't answer that question just yet.
Your agenda item is for an amount that, it says $4,750. Is that the total amount that's coming from the city taxpayers in the budget for this company?
No, the credit card fees would be variable, again, based upon how many register that much, that's a percentage. So we have that set aside now, it'd be trading off what our current credit card fees are for what these credit card fees, but I can't answer and tell you what that number exactly would be. The customization fee,
I think the credit card piece is separate from purchasing the software and the installation. The credit card, whether or not it's charged back to the citizen or we absorb it, is part of the modification that we may end up deciding on, but that's not part of getting the software.
it's not part of the software, but it would be part of the ultimate cost.
Part of
You-
your customization.
Well, that would be, that part would be separate from the customization. So for
I'm not sure
example,
I'm-
based upon what our fees are, if you happen to pay $75 for, you're registering for an activity, you pay $75 and you're using your credit card, they're adding a percentage onto that. And the question is whether we would be absorbing that or not. Right now, we absorb it.
Does that, absorbing it, does that affect the cost of the software?
It doesn't affect the cost of, it's a cost of using the software, if you will. If that answers, I believe that's what you're trying to
So
ask me.
it's secondary. It's part of, after we have the software, we need to make sure we either charge back the credit card fee or absorb the fee, but it's not part of deciding which software
That-
you're gonna get.
Well, you might consider that. But ultimately, is it part of the like upfront, one-time subscription, annual cost of it? No, but you may, that may be something that you want to take into consideration.
Vicki, I'm sorry. So tonight, you are asking us to approve a contract or an agreement for $4,750, or like it shows on page 12, where we are being asked to approve a contract or agreement for $9,250.
This will be $4,750 for the subscription fee, and then the additional $4,500 for
The implementation.
for the implementation.
And so I think the confusion here is that your agenda item only shows the subscription portion of the total outlay that you're asking us for this evening.
This isn't making a whole lot of sense, because I know at the church, we have a little device we've incorporated. You put your card in there and it automatically adds on a percentage to it, and that's what gets charged back to their account.
Tom, can I make a suggestion? Can we bring this back if the council's desire to the next meeting with the total amount of the contract? Thank you. Council?
Okay, I'll make a motion, we table this to the next meeting.
Just for clarification, I won't be at the next meeting, so it would.
Tom's got his work cut out for him.
Okay.
All right, I'll table it to the first meeting in January.
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Vicki. Tab E, Pete?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item I have tonight is an expansion of the scope of work for the water treatment plant rehabilitation project, identified as addendum 7 to the water treatment plant improvement proposal dated March 19th, 2018 by Carter and Sloop. And this is a request to provide additional engineering services associated with the revised project scope. To give you some background, the reason there's a request for increased engineering, originally, the original scope is we try to provide redundancy for the plant, which is rated at $1.5 million, by adding a second filter, a basin, and some new high service pumps. And also originally, it looked like we would put in on-site lagoons for sludge handling capability. But as we proceeded through the process, we continued to ask questions about all of the unit processes and what areas were weak due to age and obsolescence. And because of the age of the plant, everything's obsolete for them. It's just not functioning well. The layout of everything, the chemical feeds, the rooms, just need to be approved upon. And also, thirdly, we'd be remiss if we didn't look toward if we were able to secure a new raw water source, whether that is utilizing water reuse or another source. So the challenge was to take care of the short-term need by also incorporating the long-term capability for the next 30 years for the plant. And if we're successful in getting a permit for reuse, we felt that we had to incorporate a footprint to accommodate newer technologies that more than likely are going to be required by more stringent regulations, and they would be in the form of either advanced oxidative processes on the front end of the plant, or it could be secondary filtration in the form of membrane filtrations on the back end of the plant. So we had to provide a footprint for that and associated piping. The raw water pumps are shot, so we need to replace them. And if you'll recall, recently we actually had a failure of one of those pumps that flooded the pipe galley with 6 foot of water and damaged a lot of equipment that was very costly. So these improvements would include improvements to the raw water pumping. Also, they're hard to work on. They're in a lower level. If you had to pull the pumps, you have low ceiling space. It just doesn't lend itself to replacing it or even conducting proper maintenance on it. Expand redundancy with flocculation sedimentation processes. Again, I spoke about the improvements in centralization of chemical storage and building, and some of those issues are safety related as well for the operators. And part of accommodating the flexibility that we need for the present and future, we have to expand the pipe and pumping gallery. We also felt it was important to add an additional clear well on site, a 500,000 gallon clear well. Right now we could use an extra clear well, but even if we were to go up in flow in the future, we're going to need that additional capacity. Also, the first and third floor building, by rearranging where we store chemicals, bulk tanks, and things like that, we'll be able to reclaim that space, either for office space, additional storage for inside, and that sort of thing. So you had approved originally an amount for $446,200 in engineering fees. And this request is to add another $298,800 to that for a total amount of $745,000. This is reflected as a non-budgeted item, but we are going after a GFA loan that would incorporate this. So that engineering cost would be recouped in that GFA loan.
You say we're going after it, you mean it's a sure thing?
It's not a sure thing, but we have to make application. And so we've had to do some adjustments to get it to GFA so they can review the request and ultimately approve it. You know, it'll go to underwriting, it'll go through a certain process, and then it'll go before a committee that they have quarterly.
Well, they want the $298,800 right now, though. We have to.
No, we would pay that cost as upfront as we go, and then we'd be reimbursed through the GFA loan on that.
Okay.
And the staff's recommendation would be to engage Carter and Sloop, who is our current engineer that is working on this, for additional engineering services identified as Addendum 7 to the Water Treatment Plant Improvements Proposal dated March 19, 2018 by Carter and Sloop Engineers in the total adjusted agreement amount of $745,000.
My question is for David. David, have you had a chance to look at this addendum?
I have. I've looked at it, and I believe it is in appropriate form.
Okay, thank you, sir. Questions for staff?
Pete?
Yes, sir.
So I feel like every month we have some sort of water treatment, water sewer thing that we have to pay for. And I know that's part of what we're facing in Villa Rica right now. But it always seems like the funding source is the GFA loan. And then as you just said, we haven't applied for that yet. So could you just briefly tell me, when do we expect to apply for that? When can we expect reimbursement of the outlay that we're putting out for these?
We have made the application to
Okay.
the state, and we've actually amended it just recently to reflect, or we will be, the greater amount if it's approved.
Okay.
I think the quickest date that they would review would go on their May calendar next year.
Okay. So around June or July, then we might have some affirmative answer as to whether we've been awarded the loan, and then we could use the loan monies for future improvements from that date forward.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And GFA loan means that we have to pay that back. I mean, that loan sounds like something we're borrowing to pay back.
It's not a grant.
Okay.
So yes, we have to pay it back.
That's what I was afraid you was gonna say.
I don't know why they do that, but yeah, they want to get paid back.
The government money, they're supposed to give it to us.
From your presentation, component shot, safety issues, to increase capacity, we need to do this. So it sounded to me like it was a like it or not, you have to do this.
Yes. And we will benefit from efficiencies, some economy of scale by doing it now at today's dollars. And just as Tom has instructed me, that, you know, we're looking at all these projects to try to do it right the first time because we can't afford to do it a second time. So we're trying to be very careful in how we're meeting the needs of what we feel that we have to meet.
Other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to engage Carter and Sloop for additional engineering services identified as Addendum Number 7 to the Water Treatment Plan Improvements Proposal dated March 19, 2018 by Carter and Sloop Engineers and the total adjusted agreement amount of $745,000.
Check.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Tab F, Finance, Sarah?
You waited a long time to do this.
She waits till we're withered and tired to take the money.
Not only that, I drove from Kentucky this morning just for this 3-hour meeting. All right, she's going to pull up my PowerPoint, but this is the October 2019 financial update. This is the first month of our 2020 fiscal year. So currently, we're in the middle of 2 different years. We are still closing out fiscal year 2019, be getting ready for the audit. They'll be back in January to do that. So, all right. First, this is our cash update. This is October, looking at October of this year compared to October of last year. You can see our total cash has grown from 10 million to 13 million. General fund has grown, but now that it's been 2 years, I think, of not supplementing, we are seeing that general fund cash grow. Water sewer fund, we've had the 2 years of rate increases. You see that reflected there, cash growing from 2 million to 3 million. Sanitation solid waste, we are showing a negative. We need to, like I said, I think I've said previously, we're hoping that this past fiscal year was the last time we'll have to write off a balance. We are starting to see revenue in that. fund, so we haven't done the correcting entry for 2019, excuse me. So the next financials should reflect that. And then those last three items are our three current SPLOST, the 08 SPLOST is not currently bringing in revenue, but we still have a balance there that we are using for capital projects. This is our slide that shows building permits. So you will see a decline from 2018 to 2019 in the residential permits. But as Tom mentioned at the last meeting, we do have this meeting represents all the commercial that we hope to see come in as well. So although the residential here is less right now, we actually have a commercial so far in October and hoping to see more this year. This is our water and sewer income statement for October compared to last October. If you look at the total bottom line, you do see a revenue last year, or a net income, excuse me, of almost $200,000 compared to this year's $27,000. Now you may be asking, wait, how did that happen? So since the previous slide showed less building permits, that does mean we brought in less tap fees, which you'll see in the revenue section. Under miscellaneous revenue, we haven't collected as much as we did last year. However, if you look at the expense, you do see an increase from last year, and that's twofold, really. Our water expense, because of the drought, we have paid more to buy more water because we haven't been able to produce our own. And then also, if you look at the debt expense line, you can see the big increase there, which was our big push for the rate increases was to get ready for that increase in our bond payment. So although the net income is not as great as it was last year, this is what we've been preparing for. This is our net income statement for our sanitation and solid waste. This October represents 2 rate increases so far for sanitation, and we didn't have one for fiscal year 2020. So, like I said, we are starting to see slightly more than breaking even there. Bringing in $15,000 in revenue for October, or net income, excuse me. Just to point out some other things, insurance premium tax, we get this once a year from the insurance commissioner's office. Last year we brought in just over $1 million, and this year we have brought in even more, $1,070,000. Water purchases, this is not a good number, but I just wanted to highlight it. Last year our water purchases were down compared to the previous year. However, this year, because of the drought, our water purchases have gone back up. Total employees, 164 compared to last year's 158. And lastly is our self-funded insurance. So far in this fiscal year, we've had a cash savings of $78,000. The orange box represents how much we have contributed to our self-funded plan. So that is every payroll, we move money into a separate bank account for self-funded. That is the contributions by the employees and also the city. The blue shows the actual expenses paid out. So that is administrative expenses as well as the actual claims to the doctors and the pharmacies. Now, if you look up at the top, that total savings, $687,000. We did have some big claims that hit for September that have reduced that number. We were over $700,000. We were at $736,000 the last time I presented it. We're at $687,000. So it was some claims from earlier in the fiscal year that hit in September. So that has brought our total savings down, but we're still looking good. Any questions? Okay.
Item number 2.
Moving on. The next 2 items are budget amendments. The first one is for our fiscal year that just ended for 2019. I'll be bringing you probably a few more of these, just clean up before the audit. If you go to the middle one, yeah. This one actually has to do with Rise and Shine. So for the Rise and Shine that Janet and her team do every month, they bring in money from sponsorships. So we record that in a revenue line item for Rise and Shine, and then they pay for breakfasts and things. So they've actually had money that has built up over the last couple years. So the first 2 lines are basically a use of previously raised sponsorship money for Rise and Shine. They bought some tumblers to hand out. And then the second item, the expenses this year exceeded the budgeted expenses, but it didn't exceed what was given in sponsorships. So this is really just cleaning up the budget for that.
Questions for staff? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance to approve an amendment to the budget for the fiscal year 2019 for the city pursuant to section 2-71 of the city charter.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not all in favor? It is unanimous. Item 3.
The next item is to amend the 2020 budget. We have a few more here. So the first one is to increase the printing and binding line in our HR department. Stephanie and Shannon have printed handbooks and benefit enrollment packets that exceeded her printing and binding budget for $1,400. So we need to increase that line item, and we will offset that with expected permit revenue to be over budget, again, from those commercial properties that we saw tonight. Next is the item I brought to council last time was to upgrade the finance clerk to an accountant. Here we are to increasing salary line item and the FICA taxes, which is Social Security and Medicare, increasing that by $15,100 and offsetting that with building permits. And the next item is we had the overage for the Community Square Boulevard paving project was about $2,500. So, I'm sorry. Okay. So since that is a capital project, it's actually it'll be spent in a capital project. So this is increasing the transfer to that separate fund, again, offsetting it with the permit revenue. And then lastly, our election expense went over the budgeted amount by $4,200. So we need to increase that line item. We're offsetting that with permit revenue. So the total of those expenditures in the general fund increasing by $20,700, offsetting that with expected increased permit revenue. And then if you'll scroll down, this is just the other side of that Community Square Boulevard paving project. Like I said, that capital is expended in a separate fund. So this is the actual expenditure piece, and then it's offset with a transfer from the general fund for $2,500.
All right, I'll make a motion to adopt.
Real quick, actually, if I can just say one thing.
Okay.
It's kind of a moot point already, Sarah, because we've already voted on the upgrade from the finance clerk to the accountant. And I'm sorry I wasn't on the mic there for the first part of that. But I just, going forward, any kind of human resources or employee changes in the budget, I think we should be very hesitant to use the expected permit revenue. My recollection is that we've been forewarned by our city manager numerous times that increase in permit revenue should not be something that's an expense, more than a one-time expense, that a recurring expense should not be used for that. So I just, as we're going into 2020, I know we're going to have plenty of budget amendments. Let's try to find ways to avoid using that. That's just my opinion, though.
Point taken.
Okay.
All right, for this go-around, I make a motion to adopt the ordinance to approve an amendment to the budget for the fiscal year 2020 for the city pursuant to section 2-71 of the city charter.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Sarah. City manager's report, Tom.
All right, let's begin with Pine Mountain. Ghost Train was held in October. We had a few rainouts, but set a new record for participation. We tried an escape room this year also. It was just so-so, so we'll evaluate that for next year. The Christmas train event begins Wednesday, December the 4th, so a week from tomorrow. Preparation is underway. All the people are out there running around like ants at a picnic, trying to get all the Christmas, the Halloween stuff down and away, and all the Christmas stuff up. The two Douglas inmate crews the Douglas inmate crew is working out there full time, and has been for a good chunk of the year. One of the projects they did recently was to remove damaged boards from the deck and not only replace them, but extend the length of the deck. If you have a chance to go out there, every time you visit, it's going to look different and better as the junk's being removed and things are being improved. The police have some good news this report. We are close to no vacancies. No vacancies. And I don't think have I said that since I've been here? Maybe not. So we have one new hire that goes to the academy in mid-January or late January, and 2 post-certified new hires who will go on shift at the beginning of the year. So that's really great news for us. We have been working on the census. So April 1 is the count date. We're going to be working with the county. Michelle Morgan is putting together a committee to oversee sort of the process. And what we're doing internally is we're trying to develop in our utility billing database information that would indicate to us the neighborhood of every utility account location. And what I hope to do, not saying I'm going to, but I'm going to try to do, is to organize a group of volunteers so that we can go to every house in January, February, and March sometime and give people something explaining to them the date of the count, how the count's going to be done differently because it's going to be online this year, and the benefit to the city. So loss, SPLOST, DCA money, all kinds of things are dependent on this. So that's sort of the plan. And in doing that, I think it will give us other insights into the community that we don't have now because we've not reached out that way in an organized manner. I think we should celebrate. We have a paved Community Square Boulevard. How about that? How many years have we talked about that? The whole time I've been here, at least, plus before I got here, I'm sure. We are working on a new playground at Gold Dust. Do you know that? So the site of the former playground is going to be the new splash pad. So the new playground is going to be one bump up the hill toward Flowers Bakery, and we're doing that site prep in-house. So Jeremy and his guys and Mark and his guys are working on that jointly. We are also in the process of really giving the V-Plex a good once-over. So pressure washing, painting, resurfacing concrete floors in the restrooms, replacing rotten boards, that whole shebang. And then eventually there's a pretty bad erosion problem on the hill behind the Civic Center that we're going to try to tackle. So all that's going on. Those are all part of our winter project list for the guys that are, typically most of the year mowing and blowing. And then all the other things that we've talked about are still getting attention every once in a while. The North Bypass, Butterballs, the Nugget Trail, the Mirror Lake Connector, Second Industrial Park. You got the idea. All those things we're still working on as we get to them. A number of meetings have been held that I've attended since the last time we met. We had an economic development forecast sponsored by the University of West Georgia that I attended. I had a chance to meet with the Carroll County School Board and talk to them about our residential development plans and how that would impact the 3 Villa Rica Carroll County schools, right? Ithaca, Glant Heinzman, Villa Rica Elementary. Tanner sponsored a workshop on poverty, which was very interesting, that I've got to do some more homework on. It was very thought-provoking. And then I attended my first safety meeting sponsored by Carroll EMC, which I had not gone to before, but those are bi-monthly, and I'm going to try to get involved in those some. We've had all kind of events, most of which you've attended. We've had the employee luncheon, we've had the Blues Brothers concert, we've had a police promotion, we've had a couple of groundbreakings, the Goodwill facility and Southeast Trans. We've had an election, which is a big deal. We've had open enrollment. We've had a couple of meetings that didn't do well. We did our annual downtown community meeting, and turnout wasn't great. And then we did another symposium that community development participated in. We didn't do well on that one either. So we're not getting people to turn out for those. On the water and sewer side, one of our issues has been going back and getting everything paved after we cut the street. And I don't know if you've noticed, and Bobby, I don't know how many times they've been out, but they were just out again. So we have a contractor now that y'all approved, and they're coming out and doing a day's worth of patching. Is that 2 days? And so that's going on. So you should see fewer plates and, temporary patching and more permanent patching. We're still working on the Water First designation, so going back to the GFA stuff, we're trying to get this designation, which knocks 1% off the loan rate, which are already low. So like the base rate might be 2.79%, and if we get Water First, we get 1.79%, which will save us some money. It might also help us in our decision about the term of those GFA loans, because I'm hoping we can do them for 10 years, because I fear for our ability to pay for other capital projects are going to come up in 10 years that we just don't know about yet. And the lower the rate, the more I think we'll be able to see our way to a longer term. We have developed the first draft of a sewer master plan, which has really been interesting. And so now what we're doing is we're trying to look at the acute needs that we have and come up with solutions that as close as possible fit what we would have done had we designed it all to begin with, as opposed to just patching everything. You approved a contractor to come in and put in a relief line for the I-20 sewer bottleneck, and that should start mid-December. Is that 11th of December? We have 2 projects that are nearly complete, believe it or not. So the boring under 78 Railroad right here is almost complete, maybe next week. And then the water line relocation at 61 in Punkintown is almost done. Rock or not, trees or not, we just about have that one done. And so we're hoping for good weather. If we get good weather, we can have both of those done. And once we get Punkintown, that one done, then it's on GDOT to do the roundabout. That's huge, right? So a couple of good things in that one.
Back to the census thing. You know anything about this meeting, the 11th, at the library? Okay.
Yeah, that's the federal census guy that's going to do some training and that kind of stuff.
Okay. I won't get into something I'm supposed to be into.
We told him you would love to go knock on some houses, that you had lots of experience.
And you probably did too.
Thank you, Tom. That was a good report, as always.
There's some good things in there. Good things, finally.
Good things.
Good things.
Do we have any executive session items? You can't have any more money.
No, sir. Just to piggyback on some of Tom's stuff, there are road sensing tubes all over town. Our transportation master plan consultant, they're in the data collecting stage. So if you see It's not me with road tubes, it's them. So they've got them everywhere, so.
Road tube update, let me put that down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some on Daniel Road.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor? We're adjourned, thank y'all. We're here still up there.